Hello and welcome to another episode of the Uncommon Energy Podcast. On this week's episode, we'll be chatting about the results from the Dortmund Regional Championships this past weekend. Some pretty wild and unexpected finalist decks. We'll break it all down. We'll talk about Azul's next upcoming show match. It's definitely going to be something that is exciting, something to look forward to. We're going to have Guess That Flavor Text, everyone's favorite segment of the podcast. And then we're going to close things out this week by talking about the first major tournament of the new format, the Champions League Fukuda, taking place this weekend. It's going to have the cards from Temporal Forces that we're going to be getting soon. Japan already having those cards, of course. It's going to be post-rotation. So it's going to be basically the same format as our European International Championships coming up. This tournament's going to be super important for what our meta is going to look like moving forward. It's also, of course, going to be very important for what's happening over in Japan. It is massive. There's like 3,000 players competing in this thing. So certainly something to keep your eye on. And then, of course, we're going to have our bonus episode over on the Patreon to close things out. If you want to get a little bit extra podcast from me and Azul every single week, the best place to do it is over on Patreon. You get a 30-minute bonus episode, and you can support us over there. Patreon.com/Uncommon Energy Podcast. My name is Chip Ritchie, and I'm joined here, as always, by my friend and co-host, Azul GG. What's up, Azul? How we doing, buddy?
Doing good, Chip. I guess like one thing we didn't put in our sheet that we're going to talk about or quickly mention, I guess, is like mention it right now real fast. Just registration for EOIC was announced a little bit
Yep.
late, but still pretty timely. I would say overall, like pretty reasonable.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean,
oh,
for the internationals, I think they need to be pretty far in advance, man. Like so
that's
many
fair.
people,
That's fair.
they've got
They
to
are a
plan
commitment.
their travel, and it gets more expensive the longer you wait. And booking refundable travel is way more expensive than booking just regular travel. It's tough.
But yeah, it is going to be happening on February 22nd, February 23rd, 2 p.m. Eastern, and 2 or 4 a.m. Eastern are going to be the two waves. The two initial waves. I feel like every time there's two initial waves that fill up really fast, there usually is another wave. But you definitely want to make sure you're trying to register in those two initial waves. And also, registration dropped, or the dates and times for a bunch of other North American events, Orlando, Indianapolis, and Los Angeles. The dates and times for their registration also was put out there. You can check out all that info at pdcglegends.com/tournament/upcoming. Alex Wilson's site that has the best compilation of tournament information than anywhere else. So yeah, go check that out for all the upcoming tournaments and stuff like that. But yeah, I had a pretty good week this week. I did the restream of the Dortmund Regional Championships. I did this for was it Liverpool? Yeah, Liverpool.
Mhm.
I'm not able to catch every round because like me waking up at 4 a.m. is like I woke up at 4 a.m. Saturday and Sunday this time around, and I was like 2 rounds late both times, which is like fine. I'm not like stressing to see every single round. Also, the early rounds are a little bit less exciting, right? Who knows if those players are going to be in contention for day 2 or top 8. But the streams were really good. You even mentioned it to me, I think after my stream was over. Like I had over 1,000 people on YouTube, which is like a pretty big surprise to be honest.
Yeah.
And I think I had over 1,000 on Twitch at some point as well. So honestly, I don't know how many viewers they get on the official Pokemon channel on
There
YouTube.
was a lot for the finals on the so I actually looked at it because I was curious. So you had like 1.2K on YouTube during the finals, and the official channel had like over 4,000, which is
Oh,
pretty good,
really?
honestly.
That is
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think partially like it's like a better time of day, kind of middle of the day compared to like when our finals and stuff are happening where it's like at night. It's a little easier for people to catch it, I think. And then also like the fact that it was two ridiculous decks, like totally unexpected in the finals,
Yeah.
like I think got a lot of people excited to check it out. Because normally like
Definitely.
the middle of the format, the streams I think seem to do a little bit worse just because there's nothing like exciting, nothing like
Yeah.
new is happening really.
Yeah. Nothing too exciting. Nothing too new. Um. Yeah. I'm gonna keep doing those. I'm gonna having fun with those. Like I said, did Liverpool, did Dortmund now. Plan to do restream Fukuda this weekend, and then like there's Latin American tournaments coming up. I'm going to, of course, all the North American events, so I won't be restreaming those. But that's something like I guess like as I move forward with my content and maybe start competing less, like I that's what I will be doing is like restreaming the events I don't attend. Yeah, that was basically my week getting back into the content stuff. Now that I'm not really traveling for a while now, not gonna be traveling again until Vancouver, which is honestly nice. This is like the biggest break I've had in like the last 2 years, maybe even. So, yeah, excited for the break. Got some other cool content stuff coming up. How about you, Chip? Though, how was your week? Besides tuning into a little bit of Dortmund.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Nothing crazy going on. Had some family over for the Super Bowl. Had a good time watching that.
Oh yeah, that game was crazy.
Yeah, yeah. It ended up. It's so interesting because it's like we were sitting there watching the game, and my dad and granddad were like, "Oh, this is like not a super great game," and it's like there wasn't a lot of scoring at the very big. Well, it's because like the first half, right? Like it was
Yeah.
kind of slow. Like the first quarter ended, it was 3-0, but it was like a classic, like old school football, like field position fight. There was mistakes on both sides, which, I guess doesn't necessarily lend itself to being a necessarily good game. But by the end of it, it ended up being an extremely exciting Super Bowl. I think it was just the second Super Bowl ever to finish in overtime.
Mhm.
Um, but
Well,
yeah,
I mean, if the teams are playing, like, I don't know, I feel like when people look at mistakes, especially in sports, they don't. I feel like one thing that gets left out is like, is it them making mistakes, or is it the other team pressuring them and making it hard for them to
making
play
a good
well?
play.
Yeah, and like forcing them into, or like not forcing them to make mistakes, but making it harder for them to make good plays, which leads to mistakes.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I think usually it's like a combination of things, right? Like things like
yeah,
fumbles and stuff that happen.
yeah,
A
of
lot
course.
of
I
times
guess
it's
like
like
the early
a
fumbles.
good defensive play, like punching out the ball, but also like,
Yeah.
as a ball carrier inside the 10-yard line, you gotta hold on to that thing for everything it's worth, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was a really exciting game for sure. I'm not really like a fan of either team. I'm a fan of Patrick Mahomes, like specifically. It's going to be interesting to see what he can do like over the next couple
Yeah.
years, the next 5 to 10 years, however long he plays. Because 10 years might be stretching it a little bit. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he can do. That
It's
was really
pretty
exciting,
crazy, man,
actually.
how successful he's been. He's only 28 years old, and he's
Yeah.
won 3 Super Bowls. It's
How
pretty
long did
wild.
Brady? How long did Brady play till 40? Did he get to 40?
Yeah, Brady played for
Remember.
20 seasons.
Sheesh, and he's only yeah. Yeah, so Mahomes could dethrone him. It'd be interesting. I'm excited to see if he can do it or not.
Yeah, they talked
Um,
about that a bit on the broadcast of, like,
Definitely on pace to
passing
do
of the
it.
torch, stuff
Yeah.
like that. It's pretty cool. Yeah, and I don't know, anytime someone finds a lot of success, people love to hate whoever's on top. It's easy to hate whoever's on top, right?
Mhm.
Uh And I think there was even like an interview. I don't remember the exact words that were said, but someone basically asked that question kind of to Patrick this week. It's like, you guys are like having the makings of a dynasty here. It seems like a lot of people have begun to paint you guys as the villains and stuff like that. And he said, win or lose this game, we're definitely like, yeah, I don't remember exactly what he said. Like, we're definitely like trying to, you know, make this a thing, like the dynasty, whatever. And he said, if people want a villain, I'm happy to be that villain for them, is what he said. If it
Yeah.
means that they're becoming the Super Bowl champion so many years in a row or whatever.
It almost is that just how it goes in football? Because like, I haven't really
It's
been
how it goes in
following.
everything, man.
Well,
Everyone
that's
hates
true.
whoever is the best.
Well, I feel like sometimes in, like, other sports when someone's really, really good and winning a lot, like, I feel like it's the same thing with, like, the Yankees in baseball. But when the Red Sox
Eventually,
but when the Red Sox were
eventually, if
ever
they win
really
enough,
good.
though, man, if they win enough, eventually, it's the good old Batman, adage, right? You
I
either
guess maybe,
you
yeah.
die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
I feel like I consistently see it in football, but I don't see it as much in other sports, but I guess it is true to some extent in other sports. Um, I guess whenever the Red Sox I felt like whenever the Red Sox were really, really good, I didn't feel like anyone hated the Red Sox, but maybe I'm wrong because I was on the inside looking out when I lived in
Yeah, you
Boston
were a
with
part
that,
of, like, the
so
Boston world.
yeah, I mean, maybe
Yeah.
that is just true in sports in general. I guess that's like a little bit weird way I mean, I know, like, people hated the Patriots and people hate Brady, um, and they try and, like, deflate gate and all
Do
that stuff.
everything they can to
Yeah.
they people will do everything they can to discredit someone's
To
success.
dethrone the one on top. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kinda crazy. I don't know, I just like watching greatness or just watching really good games is just, like, what I'm kind of here for, like, I'm just
Yeah.
a fan of like, that's why that game was, like, so cool for me personally to watch. It was just, like, such a good. It wasn't like yeah, quite like, I don't understand the game enough to, like, understand, like, the bad plays, I guess, so much, but it was overtime, bro. I love overtime. When we go to overtime, that's more game. Let's get it. It's close,
It
like,
was hype, man.
it's
It was a
exciting.
great football game.
Yeah.
But enough about that. This is not a football, not a sports podcast. This is a Pokemon TCG podcast. And we did have a TCG regionals this weekend. Like Azul was mentioning, he did recast it, restream not recast, restreamed it.
Yeah.
But yeah, over in Dortmund in Germany, there was 1,348 players pretty large event for Europe at this point, but I mean, like we've said, it's kind of becoming the norm. And yeah, we can look at the day one and day two meta. Not really a big surprise to see basically where anything landed here. What do you think, Azul, for the day one meta?
Um, yeah, not really. I guess like one of the big questions was like, where would Tina versus Moon go? Guardy did make its way up to the 10%, which is like I feel like something we've been
A
predicting
little
going
bit
into every
higher, yeah.
European regionals. We're like, okay, Guardy should be a little bit more popular, a little bit more popular. And then at the last one, I was like, I don't know, man. Maybe it's just gonna be, but it's still made away. I don't think it's gonna be like breaking 10 anytime soon, though. But yeah, Charizard being the most popular deck, but coming down a little bit, just a little bit though, from like the 17, 18 down to the 16. Tina was the second most popular deck here, which is not a big surprise. Roy Moon hype down a little bit. Guardy hype up a little bit because it does have that good matchup into the Moon and the Charizard. Feels like a really good play right now.
Yeah.
Um, and then the Lost Box a little bit more popular than I guess I expected, but I guess it did have a little bit of hype of it around it leaving Knoxville. I don't know if that had a huge impact on that or not. I actually feel like over in Europe we see a lot more success of like different Lost Box builds, like the Running Caraman, uh, Roaring Moon, Sable Zard, or like the Glasses build came from Europe. I think initially,
Yep. It
um,
did.
I think Peterson got another top 32 or got another day two, got a top 32 finish here alongside the top 8 in Liverpool. And then Maridon's still kind of just hanging on there, down there at the end. So yeah, nothing too shocking. I guess I would have see a I guess maybe I'm a little bit surprised to not see Mew in the top 6. Maybe not surprised, but it's right there at number 7, so it's like not far, right?
Yeah. And then if we look at day two, Mew did make it into the um the top six. It was the sixth most popular deck in day two of the tournament, and Roaring Moon surging all the way up to first here, having a solid conversion rate. Another one, Gardevoir, having a good conversion rate, going from 10% day one up to 15 in day number two. So yeah, still a lot of Moon, still a lot of Guardy in this tournament, and Lost Box, another deck, converted pretty well into day two.
Yeah. So yeah, once again, nothing too crazy, nothing too shocking. 'Cause I feel like Moon has kind of established herself as like, all right, I'm gonna be a top 6 deck probably moving forward. I think the only real question is, will we see a bounce back from Maridon? Or will we see it to maybe slowly slip further away and see Mew kind of come back into it? But I feel like it'll be tough for Mew to like. You got to deal with the Charizard. Mew's got to deal with Charizard, Gardevoir, and now Roaring Moon has become like I guess a mainstay or whatever you want to call it in the top half of the meta. So I don't think Mew is going to be. There's not really room for Mew to make that bounce back. I guess maybe there's an opportunity though for one of the decks that did make the finals to to break its way back into the top 6. Well, I guess Golden Go's never been there before, but Chi and Pao could make its way back up there, I guess.
Yeah, and speaking of the Chien Pao, and I mean, looking at these top decks from day two, neither of the decks that made it to the finals are listed in the top six here of the day two meta. And it
Nope.
was the Chien Pao Baxcalibur and Golden Go making it to the finals. Chien Pao did come away with the win. It was Owen Kammerman, I believe, getting his first regional victory. I'm pretty sure,
First
right?
major dub, yeah, I think it is
Yeah,
the first.
first
I
major
actually just
dub.
yeah, I just went through and looked at it. I mentioned in my chat the other day, someone pointed out that he did win London Open Blue, but I was like, that's just a big league cup, so that does
Yeah,
not
yeah.
count.
There's
But
usually
yeah,
pretty good players in those open tournaments, but it's
of
not
course,
like,
yeah. There's
and
no
especially
like
I guess specifically at London Open, because the London Open was during top 8. So there's really only it was that at that world's like the majority of the world's competitors got to play in that tournament.
yeah,
So
yeah. It was a little bit more competitive of an open than there usually is for
yeah,
sure.
but,
Um,
he didn't win anything for it, right? No
yeah.
cash, some championship points towards the next season. But, I mean, I'm sure if you ask him to compare the 2 tournaments, Dortmund was definitely the more difficult event to win, and Dortmund was definitely the more meaningful one as well, getting a first place finish.
Yeah, and has been, like, close to a dub quite a few times. This is the first finals, I think, but, like, I beat Owen in OCIC top 4.
Yeah.
It has a couple other top 4s as well. Actually, I don't even know if Owen has it. I'm looking, like, looking through the page. Had a top 8 in 21, 22 in Lille, but a lot of them are top 4s, to be honest. So it's, like,
Yeah.
really, really close to the finals. Bilbo special event, Lille, another top 4 is a top 4, and, Lille again, actually, was this, like, apparently apparently Owen gets top 8 at Lille every time. It's three seasons in a row, top 8 of Lille regionals, 2 of them top 4s. And now, yeah, gets finally the big win here in Dortmund with the Chien Pao, which is a deck that a lot of people have written off pretty aggressively. And I've always kind of been saying that I think the deck is still just fine. I think it's fine. I think it's one of the not the hardest decks to play in the format, but one of the most punishing. You make a mistake with Chien Pao, and you're really
Yeah,
feeling it
yeah.
like instantly. Um, so I think it's one of the most punishing decks in the format for mistakes. And I think the meta initially with Paradox Rift was tough with it because of the Miraidon matchup. But we just looked at like the top 6 decks. Miraidon's still there, but it's okay to take a tough matchup to a top 8 deck, right? Um, or a 8% deck, excuse me. It's okay to take a tough matchup to an 8% deck that doesn't seem to be having the strongest showings recently. I guess like the one question mark I've had for GM recently is just I just don't know how good of a Roaring Moon matchup you have. I have no clue to be honest, but did not stop Owen from getting to the finals and taking taking the whole thing down. It looks like
Yeah, I can't imagine the moon matchup is amazing. Let's actually take a look at.
it might not be terrible though. Like you still have like if you have like the comeback route with the hands. You can go like depends if the more Pekko hits the field. You can also have like the
Well,
Greninja
why
KO
worry
Spark
about it if you
Chameleon
only
Mew.
play against one through the whole tournament?
Yeah, and did get the dub against the one. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. There's the dub. Um, Played against a little bit of everything. It looks like here as well. Some
Yeah, a lot of
Tinas,
Giratina,
some
a lot of
Miraidons, 3
Gardevoir,
Miraidons actually.
Zard, yeah, Miraidon. Urshifu lost to the Urshifu,
That
lost to
one's
the
tough.
Mew.
Also a tough one.
Yeah, I think those are ones that make sense. Obviously, beat a Kyogre and beat Magnus, it looks like.
Not a Kyogre. It's it's the glasses
Oh,
still
yeah,
for
yeah,
Magnus. Yeah,
yeah. The Kyogre's a troll
Kyogre's just
once
a
again.
placeholder. Yeah, Kyogre's the placeholder.
Hit the Chien-Pao mirror in round 2.
Yeah, Cheating Palmier. Um,
But yeah, pretty normal. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of decks in the format. He played against a lot of different decks, so it kind of makes sense. Um,
and nothing too
and yeah, I
crazy in
mean, I
the
think I don't know. What do you think about the hands versus no hands build? Because there's been some American players that have still been pretty, consistently playing the Chien Pao, not playing the Iron Hands. Obviously, we do see the Iron Hands in this list. He also does have cross switchers as well. No canceling Cologne. I think like you either play Cologne or hands. You probably don't play both. It's like
yeah.
a lot to fit in there. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
No, yeah, I think it's
I mean, and
correct.
thinking back as well, I guess to the list we played at LAIC. I mean, this feels like it's probably like 5 cards different, right? We've had the cross switchers or we didn't have cross switchers, and then, like, other than that, like, the 3rd Chien Pao, um, I think it's probably
Yeah,
about 5 cards different.
yeah, it's like close because there's like 2 of the crossovers to become what Iron Bundle and Counter Catcher, and then
Yeah.
actually,
Chien
honestly, I don't even
Pao,
know what the difference
Super
is.
Rod,
I second Iono,
2nd Iono.
um, so pretty close to a. So I mean, I think hands is probably just correct. We see like this build here from Owen also has the cross switchers in there. Like I said, it's not too far off from like the whatever we played at LAIC. Yeah, some of the American lists recently have gone back to like the two canceling Cologne, and it just seems I don't know. Hands is just so good. I just like it's like you're trying to do the same thing, but Hands just does it more consistently and just does it better. It feels like. Um, but I mean, I feel like the canceling Cologne. If you pull off the canceling Cologne combo, it's more like it's gonna give you a stronger lead. Like it's gonna do like it's you're gonna win those games more often. But the chance that you do that is just like so much less than the hands happening. It just doesn't feel worth the trade off.
I mean, also, like, the matchups that to me, I think the main matchup that the play is good against, like, it's pretty good against Lost Box, but the one that it comes up most often in has feels like it has to be Gardevoir, right?
Yeah,
And if you hands against Gardevoir, I mean, I guess the thing is against Gardevoir, you're more pressured to hands quickly. But if you
yeah,
can get the turn 2 hands, that thing is usually going to take 4 prizes. Like they are going to have a
can
hard
yeah,
time responding to it right away. And that's probably just going to win you the game, right? The
yeah,
thing about
definitely.
Greninja is you have 3 turns to set up the play, right?
Yeah, you have a little bit more time to, like, pull off the Greninja thing, and even towards the late game, you can still do it because they can go and once they set up a Shiny Arcana and they KO, Jian Pao, like, depending on how much damage they have to put on it, you can still go, like, bring up the Manaphy, Greninja, KO that Gardevoir plus a Kirlia, the Manaphy plus the Manaphy plus a Kirlia, like, you still have, like, things you can snipe.
Yeah,
The biggest thing for that matchup for sure is just the lack of Avery now, I think, like, a lot
that's
of people
fair,
aren't
yeah.
playing Avery. Um and are cutting down on it quite a bit. Except for I think actually James I think played double Avery. I think James actually played the double Avery. So it was probably more so of a, like, I assume the reason that James played the double Avery was probably for mirror match more so than anything, was like, guard is a really good play now or right now, and because of that, I'm just gonna go ahead and play the Averys for that
Yeah.
matchup. Because Avery's not as strong as it once was, because it was, like, really good against Chi and Pao, it's really good against mirror match, and, like, going into LAIC, those are, like, 2 of the top 3 decks, if I remember correctly. It was, like, Zard, Chi and Pao, Guardy. Um,
Is like what everyone was thinking of. Well, I think
yeah,
people were thinking less of Gardevoir,
but
but
it did
then
end up being,
Gardevoir
like
ended up dominating the
yeah,
tournament. Yeah.
yeah. Um So I think that's maybe where James was thinking with the double Avery was just like taking for the mirror because of how powerful Guardy seemed right now,
Yeah.
and does kind of collateral Sheehan Pow. But most other Guardy players are not playing very many, if any, Averys right now, which is like the big thing that Sheehan Pow kind of could struggle against. It allowed Guardy to make those big comebacks. So yeah, I mean, I think Hands is probably just correct. I don't know for sure. Another Chien Pao enjoyer, Kieran Farah, who I played against round one of day two of Knoxville, was on the hands as well. So also a believer in the hands right now. But we've seen some different takes as well. Like we said, Reagan, I think Lucas were doing the canceling clone thing still, if I'm not wrong, if I'm not
Yes.
misremembering. We just saw Reagan's list. I don't know about Lucas, but so yeah.
I
Still
think
seems to be
Lucas was.
split in general among top Chien Pao enjoyers. Seems to be a little bit split.
Yeah, Lucas was playing the cross switchers and the single canceling clone. But
Solo
yeah, I would.
clone.
I mean, my tendency would also be to lean towards the Iron Hands. Just gives you. It gives you a good attacker as well against Charizard, I feel like, because like the early turns against Charizard is Chien-Pao. It's already like a pretty good matchup, right? But it gives you a way to take 2 prize cards without like having to aggressively find cross switchers immediately
Yeah.
to keep you on that 2-2-2 prize trade.
Yeah,
And
and then
if
in
you
other
can do
matchups
that as Chien-Pao, you pretty much always win that matchup.
too, like the Murata matchup or like the Roy and Moon matchup, you can
Yeah.
create 3 prize cards out of their squawk ability, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that, whereas,
Yeah.
like, normally you can't make that happen. You can't just create a prize card by playing Canceling Clone in those matchups, so gives you more flexibility in more matchups for sure.
But perhaps the bigger surprise, I mean, Chien Pao winning, maybe a little bit of a surprise. You know, it hasn't
Yeah, depending
been
on how much of a
succeeding
hater you were,
super
you kind of had
well
to
recently. But I think without a doubt, the bigger surprise has to be the
Sure.
fact that Golden Go EX made it to the finals. Now, I do have to say, we did multiple predictions for multiple tournaments before this one that involved Golden Go, you know, how high we thought it would place. And I was committed to the top 8 for 2 tournaments in a row. Nobody could quite come through with it. We didn't do a Golden Go prediction for this tournament, and what do you know? Makes it to the finals.
Makes it the and it was the only Golden Go in day 2, I believe, as well. So, only Golden Go in day 2, all the way to the finals. Definitely, definitely a surprise. Definitely a little bit of a I don't know about a shock. Overcame some, I would say, tough matchups. Like I think Golden Go is unfavored against Tina and Gardevoir. But we see the path to victory. Quite a few Gardevoirs, only one Tina, Benjamin Pham in the top 4. Um, and able to overcome all of that. Also beat Alessandro with the control,
Yeah,
which
that's a pretty
seems
tough
tough
one
as
too.
well. I don't know if Alessandro played Mimikyu though, I guess. Because like the big thing when I look at that, it would be like, okay, you have to attack with Greninja like a lot if they have like Mimikyu with a Bravery Charm and then like recover and put a Bravery Charm on it, or like Penny Loop it. And then if you have Greninja in play, if they force you into the Greninja through the Mimikyu, then you just Snorlax trap the Greninja for the game and you just win that way. But this build of control, little bit less of everything to make up for having a lot more of other things. So definitely can have some more fluky games than kind of something like the Cal Connor control that there's kind of like the difference is like the Pidgey control versus like the straight quad Snorlax control. And like this one is definitely less consistent. You just have more things though. Your opponent has to play around more stuff because you have more stuff. But sometimes you just want more of a couple stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Alessandro's build here that we're looking at does have the Radiant Charizard and the Chi-Yu EX with the fire
yeah,
energy in here, making those, you know, potential attackers. Does have the Pidgeot line in here as well with the double turbo energies, the Mawile to tempting traps and
Luxray.
stuff, Luxray. There's a lot of different things going on here.
Yeah, the whole squad in here for sure. Yeah. So I feel like that's probably like I mean, see, I feel like if you drew well with this build, I feel like you should be beating Golden Go, just based on Mimikyu, basically. Um, but yeah, once again, like it feels like yeah, was able to overcome a couple tough matchups, but was able to get there all the way to the finals.
Yeah.
and then only came up a little bit short to Owen in the end. And those are some pretty interesting games as well. The finals had some definitely some back and forth. I think definitely some blunders on both ends, but definitely some like both players kind of came up a little bit short a couple times throughout the match as well, and had to like piece stuff together as well. So it was a very interesting matchup. And I guess like another thing, also did play the double Avery, or just Avery in general, which is like really bad for Chi and Pao to go up against. But there was never actually that it never actually happened in the game where there was like a really good Avery opportunity to
Yeah.
like kind of take board control and be like, well, now you have to get rid of like a Frigibacks and hope I don't have double cross switcher for your back Excalibur, or get rid of your second B barrel. Now I can Roxanne you next turn plus double cross switcher B barrel.
Yeah.
Was never really able to develop those super powerful plays around the Averys, but yeah, those are also like the good cards in that matchup for sure. So had it basically all the pieces for it. I wasn't able to quite put it together at the end.
Yeah, I think another aspect of this deck to talk about, you know, Golden Go is not it's obviously not bad, right? Made it to the finals. It's a functioning deck. This list has a lot of, different plays you can do, which is really cool. The Palkia, the Greninja, stuff like that. But when you compare it to some of the other decks in the format, like the Charizards, like the Roaring Moons, it definitely feels like it might be a little bit less consistent, maybe has a little bit worse matchups against some of the other things in the format. So to get to that point, I mean, you've got to be putting yourself in really good positions consistently, right? Like you've got to be playing pretty sharp throughout the tournament. So, got to give some props there to Gel for getting to the finals here because you have to imagine I mean, you to make it really far with a deck like this, like you've got to be on top of your game for most of the day.
Yeah, and I believe the name is pronounced Yella.
Yella,
Yella, yeah.
excuse my American.
I think the J in general is pronounced like a Y in Europe, just across the board, but
Probably in like most countries outside of
might
America.
just be outside America.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. I mean, this doesn't really change my perspective of Golden Go too much at all, to be honest. Like when I even watched the games that Yellow was playing in with the deck, it was like, well, this is functioning like Golden Go, and kind of had to scrape it together a couple times. Um, and there was like especially like one match specifically I think with against Nico where like Nico definitely could have come out on top in that one, but struggled to put it together overall in game one. Had a couple missteps, so yeah, definitely doesn't change my perspective of the deck. Maybe maybe that's like a new tier that people should categorize decks as functioning decks. I think Golden Goat does fit that. Like, it's not bad, but like, it's not like it's not a Charizard, it's not a Gardevoir, it's not a Lostatina, it's not as powerful as those decks. And yeah, it doesn't really change my perspective on the deck too much at all. But it's still cool to see it make it to the finals. It's cool to see that it make its way there. I think there's like actually a couple decks in general that was kind of cool to see make their way into like reasonable runs. We saw like Mateus back at it with like the Bennett, and then there was a Tyler Matthews Entei build that got ninth place actually.
Literally the
Um,
same 60.
yeah, so seeing like some consistency out of that build especially, and actually I played with the build today with the B barrel is so good in there. It's crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy how much of it like it feels like I'm playing a completely different deck. So if you're a Entei Valiant enjoyer or you're looking to hop on the train, play the Tyler Matthews build. I'm sure it's not perfect and there could be some adjustments from there, but the B barrel is the 1-1 B barrel in that build is definitely a game changer for sure.
Let's look at the rest of the top 8 here. We did have 1 lost Tina, was Benji Pham. Also 3 players from the Netherlands in the top 3. So
Yep.
the Dutch players were definitely representing for this one. But yeah, Benji on the lost Tina. Nothing super crazy in this list. Does
Nothing
have the escape
crazy.
rope. I know you're not a big fan of that card in Lost Tina.
Nope, not a big fan of it. But is there if it's like a it's like okay, it's very okay, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Just a
Three
one of, just a
water.
one of.
I don't like the three path. I really do not like. The more I've like seen players play Tina, whenever I watch someone play a Tina list with four path, it just looks so much like that feels like I recognize the difference when I'm watching it. Like when you see a Tina player who plays three path, they're constantly stressing about taking the path or lost owning a path. And then when they're about to play a path, they're stressing about should I play this path now, but then I don't have a path later. You see someone with four path and they're like lost on a path, play a path, lost on a path, play a path. They're just like going through it so much more impactful on the game. So I really like don't like that. But besides that, it's pretty much straightforward Tina, right? The Avery's in there, but it makes sense that Guardy being such a expected successful deck, which it was, right? Three Guardies in the top 8. Um, we had Gabriel Smart from America, James Cox from Australia, and then Rowan from Canada. So no European Guardies actually, no European Guardies in the top 8. All the foreigners coming over and claiming some top 8 guardy slots. Um, and they were all a little bit different. Nothing too crazy. Rowan's still on like the no VIP pass. Um,
They
who's
all
his
had
name?
Turo in them.
They all had Turo. That is something I noticed. 84% of guardy players had Turo. They were prepared for the Mawile for
Yep.
sure. I mean, it's not only good against Mawile, but it is good against Mawile. It is definitely very good against Mawile. Has its other uses as well. And like Rowan specifically has like been playing Turo for forever, but looks like all the other guardy players are like, well, do I really want to lose to Mawile? Not really. Let's play the Turo. Yeah, 84% with the Turo.
Yeah, pretty high percentage there. Um, there was more people not on the Battle VIP pass as well. It does feel like, Battle VIP pass overall has been still the more consistent pick, but Rowan was not the only one to not play VIP pass in day 2, it looked like.
Yeah,
I
I'm
haven't
not
looked at
sure
the
who
rest
else it
of the
was.
lists yet.
Nico
Nico
was
had
like
them in
the
the top 16 list here.
yeah, majority of people played him. I think there was maybe one person who had 3.
Okay.
Um, yeah, the 3 the 3 battle VIP pass enjoyers. They're out there.
Moonlit Hill and a couple of these lists. That is, I guess, something to mention. None of the top 8 lists played the Moonlit Hill, right? Oh, no,
Gabriel did,
Smart
yeah.
had it, yeah.
Smart had the Moonlit Hill. Other players opting not to. I don't know, it just seems like I guess, like, is it better than
Oh,
Collapsed?
Gabriel had
Probably not.
3 VIP
Oh,
pass.
there it is, there
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, I don't know how to feel about that, to be honest. I don't know, it just feels weird. Although, a B-Barrel Charizard list that I worked on recently, I somehow ended up with 3 VIP pass in it, and it felt correct. So that's, like it's, like, weird. I don't know. Um, but yeah, the Moonlit Hill, I don't know. Is it better than Collapsed? No. Is it better than Artisan? I'm not sure. Is it better than second Artisan? Probably, but, like, the slot that people have been playing over the second Artisan has generally been a vacuum, which has, like, other use cases besides just a stadium, and
Yeah.
then generally, if we see a 4th stadium bump, it is that worker, like we see here in Smart's list, and I don't know, yeah, is the Moonlit Hill better than the vacuum? I don't know. Maybe it's probably meta dependent, right?
If
Depends
there's a
what's
little bit
going
less
around.
Mew, I mean, I think the main plus of the vacuum is for the
Mysterious
Mew
Tail.
matchup, to get rid of that box of disasters. It
Yeah,
is
true.
pretty decent against Miraidon as well, but both of those decks have been down in play. Your Miraidon matchup is already pretty bad. So,
Rhino's not even playing Path anymore, so it's, like, not even, like it's, like, just there for the Bravery Charms now as well. But I feel
oh
like that's
no,
not a huge impact
EXP
on
share is
the
what I was thinking.
Oh, true. I guess, yeah, EXP share is fair. That's fair for sure. Yeah, even then, it doesn't feel like that's, like, the big impact on the matchup. You need to be pulling out some, like, huge
Yeah. Yeah, you're losing to
some
that
bigger
matchup most of the time
plays.
anyway,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah, maybe Vacuum is just kind of not worth it right now. Moonlit Hill, I mean, it seems worth it if you can include it, right? Because it allows you to extend your
I
damage
was
with Shiny
wondering
Arcana.
I was wondering if there could be, like, a more aggressive list that just, like, was trying to attack super quickly, like heavier candy, something like that. Like, that's, like, where I feel like Moonlit Hill could come into play because it gets you another Psychic in the discard pile, it lets you get another Psychic on the guy. Maybe if you were trying to be more aggressive, like with another Zacian, something like that, but, like, you just don't need to hit for that much damage against anything that fast, so
Yeah. I think I saw, like, a list from Japan when Moonlit Hill first released that had, like, 13 basic Psychic, like,
yeah,
2
that's
Moonlit
kind of the
Hill.
line I was thinking with it.
Also, Moonlit Hill seems like it's really good against Tina as well, to be honest.
Yeah,
Which
that is
would
another thing too. Gabe did not play Cresselia, which is normally a card that
yeah.
is really good against Giratina and Lost Box in general. But Moonlit Hill kind of does
But it
similar things. It's not an attacker. It
yeah,
doesn't set up energies on your bench Pokemon. So there's like some downsides to it, but it allows you to like attack with a Scream Tail that turn, maybe attack with the Zacian. I don't know. It lets you have a more aggressive attacker as opposed to Cresselia, right?
and that's what I think we've been seeing, like, people pick between is, like, Jirachi or Cresselia. That's what, like, it seems like the high-end Guardy players are picking between. Like, we
Sure.
see, Tord and Gustavo most recently not playing the Cresselia. Like, if we look at Rowan's list, I think Rowan has both, but Rowan's not playing Battle VIP Pass, so Rowan has a little bit more
Has more
room in the deck. Oh,
space.
no Screamtail, but Rowan doesn't like playing the Screamtail, which that blows my mind, but, I mean, it's been working out, um so I guess Rowan's picking between Cresselia and Screamtail, it almost feels like here. But, yeah, I think what we've seen is, like, from the higher end Guardy players is they've been picking between Jirachi and Cresselia, and it feels like I don't know, like, it feels like Cresselia is the better of the 2 against Tina for that early game pressure. It feels like getting that extra attacking option in the early game of the Cresselia into the Tina matchup feels really,
And it's
really
something that's
strong.
super annoying for them to KO, like
Yeah, exactly. And then but then you do kinda miss the Jirachi towards the mid late game as well. I think we saw that I think I saw that come up, like, specifically, James against Benjamin in the top 8 match. It's like the Cresselia was great for James, but it's like James definitely was missing the Jirachi towards the end of the game as well. So like playing both obviously is best. I feel like maybe one reason people are leaning a little bit more towards the Jirachi right now is because of the other lost box variants that are going around. They want the protection from the Jirachi in the late game because a lot of these lost box builds are playing like Iron Hands and stuff, right? So they're
Yeah.
not even going in with Cram early. If you Cresselia into an Iron Hands, you're losing the game. So you got to like KO that. But then if you KO that with a Shiny Arcana, the comeback of the Sableye can be tough to deal with. So yeah, you can't play everything. But it feels like with how popular Tina is, it feels like, and especially how many great players are playing Tina, it feels like you'd want to go towards having this Cresselia over the Jirachi, but we see it kind of split. And yeah, people are like picking their picking their small squad to run with, and it's not always like the same. People are making some different choices.
And then we got two more decks in top eight to talk about. We got Stian Nilsson here with a Sable Zard deck with the Roaring Moon, is playing the four Mirage Gate. So, similar to that Cameraman list.
This
Oh,
might literally just
what do
be
you know?
Cameraman's
It
60.
is the same
Yeah.
60 as Brendan Cameraman's list.
Yeah, literally another top 4 for the Cameraman 60. Did Brennan get top 4 at LAIC? Was it top 8?
He
Close
got
close
top
to that.
four.
But that's definitely we see it's a different 60 than
Yeah.
what was played at LAIC. But yeah, Cameraman's been tearing it up with
Oh,
this build
he got top eight. Sorry.
for the miss.
Oh, no,
Um,
man. Can't
yeah,
keep,
and then
keep
recently
straight.
at Liverpool got top 4, and then yeah, Nielsen here getting a top 4 with list. And this is like a not a widely adopted build of Lost Box either. Like people are just not picking this build up at
Yeah.
all. And I don't know if it's worth picking up. Like, I don't know if this is like that much better than everything else. Honestly, every time I pick up a Lost Pile deck, they all just feel very okay. Like they're all just okay. They're all fine. Nothing special. It's got the hand. It's like the D Nazim build, or like the glasses build, or like this build, or the Kyogre build. It's like, they're all pretty good, but none of them feel like a step above, kind of like Kyogre felt, uh, like pre-worlds. Kyogre pre-worlds felt like different, but all the lost piles, like post Paradox Rift, all feel about the same. They're just different. I don't know. Hard to
And then the
categorize one
last
above the rest.
last unique deck here is the Mew VMAX. Good old Mew. It wouldn't be a European tournament if we didn't find a Mew VMAX list in the top eight.
Yeah, and Arnie, I believe, was the first player locked up into a top 8 slot, was like 12-1-1 or something, had like 37 match points. Going after round 14. It was kinda I was kinda crazy. I was looking, I was like, "Man, they're first seed right now." Imagine they just, like, literally win. Imagine that would have been too much. So if Mew had won back-to-back major tournaments in, Europe, especially when it's, like, not that popular of a deck overall, um, that would have been yeah, it would have been too much it would have been too much, to be honest. So, for Europe's sake, I'm glad that Mew did not get another dub here, to be honest, because the memes would have been too strong. So, yeah, but a top 8, yeah, Mew's still kicking.
Still knocking around out there. But yeah, that was the top eight decks. Definitely the two in the finals, most interesting ones. You already mentioned Matthias here on the Entei Iron Valiant, same 60 that Tyler Matthews got top eight with the other weekend. Any other day two decks, any other matches that you saw on the stream that were interesting, worth talking about? There was a
No,
Dialga deck in top 32.
there was the Dialga deck, Lost Zone Dialga, something, that's something right there. That's definitely I don't know what to think about it. The lack of Roxanne is interesting because I feel like that'd be, like, a pretty powerful card in this deck, but you are, like, a pretty
The
heavy
Leafy
comeback
Camo
deck.
Poncho.
Gotta
Okay.
protect the Dialga, bro. You gotta protect the Dialga, can't let him just be bossing it. Um, and then has, like, the Ionos in there. Ionos is still pretty good late game disruptor, especially if you're falling that far behind. I imagine this deck is falling pretty far behind. So the Iono is still gonna be good enough. That's definitely an interesting one for sure is the Dialga. I don't know what to think about that, to be honest.
Came in at 6-2-1 in today too. Lost round 10, unfortunately. Had a chance to win out, but looks like tied at Gardevoir in the last round.
Yeah, it was getting up there. It was getting close. That would have been a top 16 finish, it looks like.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, yeah. I forget these tournaments in Europe I'm used to like 34 being, chill for Europe, but it's not the case anymore.
and then there was Mateus's Bennett deck at like 31st. Uh, that was interesting. We've seen Mateus play this before and
Yep.
do pretty well. I played it a little bit on stream today. It's pretty cool. The deck's cool for sure. I think it's like pretty good into a decent amount of matchups.
I've always
Um,
thought this card had a little bit more potential than people
dude, I
gave it
was
credit for. This card's pretty decent.
Speaking of that, I don't think there's room in the deck for it, to be honest, and I honestly melodic might be better, but
And
I was
for
like,
anyone who's listening, not watching, I'm talking about the
"Oh, yeah.
Bonnet from Lost Origins that has puppet offerings, lets you bring a supporter back from your discard pile with the trade-off of Lost zoning the Bonnet.
Yeah, that Bennett, I was thinking it as like a 1/1 in, um, as a 1/1 in Golden Go, it seemed kinda cool because you could recover your Roxanne or your Boss or a Worker or an Avery, but maybe a Melodic is just a little bit better, the 1/1 Melodic, but overall, no one's playing the Melodic anymore, so
Yeah.
maybe it's just best to not play any of them, but, yeah, this is a really cool Bennett EX build here from Mateus, like I said, seen it before with the Guardy line in there as well, uh, tried it out on stream a little bit today myself, and yeah, the deck's cool. The deck's, definitely cool, so you're looking for something fresh, then this is, like, the way to go right now, I think, for sure.
Feels like you've got, like, a lot of different ways to win the game with this deck, which is
Yeah.
cool for sure. You can take your 6
It's
prize cards, you can
definitely
deck your opponent out, you can stick something active, there's a lot of things you can do.
definitely a steep learning curve for sure to the deck, for sure, like, there's a lot to learn about all of its matchups, but that's kinda like I mean, if you don't enjoy that part of Pokemon, then I don't know. Yeah. I hope you enjoy that part of Pokemon, like, learning a deck and learning how it functions.
Some people just
So,
like showing up with, Miraidon or Roaring Moon and knocking
that's
stuff
true.
out, right?
That's true. Don't need to learn anything, just another KO.
What do you think about where Snorlax is kind of sitting right now? There's still a couple here in the top 16, top 32, like it had an overall okay tournament, I would say, but it hasn't been I get was it really dominating? Like, I mean, I don't know. It was such a bigger part of the top level of the metagame, it felt like, than it is maybe right now actively where we are.
I think a lot has to do with the meta shift, like, Roaring Moon got more popular, Lost on decks are getting more popular, um Tina as well has had Tina's already had, like, kind of its popularity boost, um, and then, I think, like, I mean, this tournament specifically, all the Guardies play Turo, so it's not like an auto loss if Gardevoir has Turo as Snorlax, but it's a lot tougher for sure, so, yeah. I think it's just, like, kinda the meta shifting around where it was definitely a better play a little while ago, it's definitely becoming a worse play, um yeah, becoming quite a bit worse of a play as we're kinda moving forward throughout the l what is it? The later half of this meta. Are we about
Yeah.
over halfway through? Um, but there's still some stuff to happen. Like, I mean, if Golden Go and Baxcalibur could become popular, I don't think either of them will become super popular. I could see Baxcalibur becoming a, top 6 meta graphic deck in the next major tournament, and I guess we'll find out not too long because like, Utrecht is in what, 2 weeks, and that's the next major one coming up, I think.
Yeah, you trekked
Um
in it's the 2nd, 3rd weekend in February
Yeah, so that's coming
or,
up
March, excuse me.
March, yeah, first weekend of March, so not too far away. We'll see how the meta shakes up. I think by the time we get to Vancouver, a lot of stuff could change for sure, which is the next North American major tournament. But between now and then, there's like I don't even know. There's quite a few events. We got a Latin American event. We got Utrecht. Actually, it might just be those two to be honest. Utrecht, Latin America, yeah, and then Vancouver after that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, two more events before then. Be like Vancouver's a ways off, but definitely time for plenty of stuff to shake up.
Yeah, and
For
before
sure.
we know it, it's gonna be over too. I mean, it is still 6 weeks of the format, or I guess 8 weeks, but, like, in 6 weeks, it'll be the new set. Like, the weekend of Vancouver, the new set
Finally,
comes out, so that'll be exciting. And I always hate that there's tournaments scheduled, like, the weekend that a new set comes out because everyone's
yeah,
moved past it, Like, nobody, like, cares. It's bad for viewership, it's bad
yeah.
for just, like it's just, like, poor timing overall, it feels
I
like.
feel like that's something that is worth I think we're at the point in the game where that kind of stuff is worth fine tuning, like
Yeah.
schedule-wise. Like Vancouver should be the week before. It should be like the 16th, 17th,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
week before the major set release. The major set release, honestly, dude, you know what? I mean, for content ideas out there, like Pokemon should host like some show matches with the new set release of like top players like playing the new cards. That would be sick. Like imagine like they do a show match weekend or one day like Saturday,
Mhm.
Sunday where they're like like have just good players playing the new decks in like kind of a show match invitational style tournament. Like that'd be sick. Or even maybe the week before UIC you could do it. You could do the 30th, 31st stuff like that. So
Well, last year, Charlotte Regionals was right before, EUIC. It was, like, the weekend Charlotte Regionals, I think, was, like, 3 weeks before. It was, like, af pre-releases had happened, but I don't think the set was out. I don't remember exactly, but Set might have been out, but pre-releases had definitely already started happening. So we were able to, like, for the production, get our hands on a few cards, and I think the set had officially come out because I remember picking up
Feels like it is always out. I
some
like it.
cards.
Every time, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was out because every time there's a major set release,
Maybe I'm thinking of Fort Wayne though.
I contemplate like not going to the major tournament. Like every time, like I thought about like I'm gonna go to Vancouver, but like I thought for a second I was like, should I just not go to Vancouver and just stream the new set? Um, but it's a quick turnaround for me from Vancouver back home, so I'll
Yeah.
be back Sunday and be streaming back up with it. I mean, I'll do like my
And
stream
you'll
on
get to stream
Thursday.
leading up to the tournament with the new set too, because the new set will come out on TCG Live like on Thursday, right? So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It'll be out on Thursday, and then we can go from there.
But what we got our hands on some of the cards, and I was able to build like a Miraidon Regieleki deck. Like, so I was able to, like, I did a segment. I was like hosting that weekend, not casting. So I did a segment on like the new format coming up, and like this is a deck that people like are talking about. Could this deck be good? Stuff like that. So I think like anytime we can incorporate new cards, we've tried to, but there's always like some tricky stuff going on there.
Yeah, but yeah, I think fine tuning the tournament schedule would be a good thing to like. I mean, I'm sure that's like something that's I hope it's something that's like being talked about and discussed.
Yeah.
Is like the idea of that, like, okay, maybe we shouldn't have a major tournament the weekend of a set release. Let's try and get that the weekend before, if we can consistently, because they have all those dates. I'm sure they have all those dates like now for like all the set releases for the next year, right? They already know all that, so they can already kind of like put that in motion. I don't. Maybe it's not something they've ever thought about being concerned with. But I think it makes sense to try and, you know, put on, just it's just good for production, it's good for viewership,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff, and then maybe even look to do something eventually at some point, or I'm gonna be in Vancouver. I think Mahone's gonna try and be in Vancouver. I'm sure the Pokemon Company would prefer if I was streaming the new set over the weekend of the new set release on PDCG Live, as well as someone like Mahone. So, it only helps them out as well if they shift things around like that.
Well,
We'll
let's
just see.
recap our predictions that we had going into Dortmund. The first one was highest placing new Paldean Fates card, and we actually need to fact check this, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. Owen, dude,
So
Owen
our
did
prediction,
not
our prediction
play.
before we say this, our
Go ahead,
prediction
go ahead.
was highest placing new Paldean Fates card. Azul predicted Frigibax. I predicted
Oh,
Crisis Punch. Frigibax ends up being a pretty good guess because Baxcalibur got first place, but one problem: there was no new Frigibax in Owen's list.
I know, and Owen even tweeted out after the tournament, "Why didn't someone tell me there was a new Frigibax?" And also in the finals, there was a situation where Owen needed to double cross switch or something up to stall and sacrifice a Frigibax in the same turn. Um, and Owen got to go search out a Frigibax on that turn as well. And the 70 HP Frigibax was in Owen's deck. So it should have been the other Frigibax. And then Owen should have used collect on that turn because Owen was like dead drawing and needed to like stall out for a turn. But it didn't happen because Owen did not play the correct Frigibax,
And
unfortunately.
because of that, it is me that comes away with the win. We had several people in day two playing the Crisis Punch,
A lot of
none of
them
them
actually.
doing incredible. We had a 40th place finish here from Maxime, with it looks like a glasses build. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is a glasses build of Lost Box. And then Frigibax,
It's
we had Callum
close.
Thomas with the 61st place finish.
Maxime had just like lost their last round or something like that. Then was it 62nd? It would have been one place behind the Frigibax.
Oh, yep, yep,
Uh,
yep.
so almost lined up for a good meme there. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm not taking the L on this one. I'm giving the L to Owen on this one for not playing the optimal collect Frigibacks. Um, so close, so close.
Our next prediction was the number of Spiritomb that would be in top 8. We did an over under. We set the line
The
uh
1.5.
at 2.5, and looking at lists that played it, there were 2 and then 1 in ninth place. So it was 2 copies
Close.
in top 8. We did both take the under, but it was pretty close. Hey, we set a pretty good line there.
Yeah, that was a close one there for sure. Almost Almost had the third Spiritomb. Was there any other decks that would have even played Spiritomb in top 8 though? I don't think so, right?
Yeah, I mean, people have played it in Gardevoir in the past, but it's been a little while. Like, it doesn't seem worth it in Gardevoir right
Yeah.
now.
It was kinda worth it when Lugia was really popular,
Yeah,
but, oh, I
back
guess
when they had
Nielsen
Surprise
didn't
Gene.
actually end up playing it in the Sablezard Roaring Moon deck. The no Spiritomb in there. Where's the tomb at? Come on, cut that Mawile. Let's get the Spiritomb in
And then our final prediction was, will a non-European make top cut? And it turns out
there. Quite a few.
quite a few did. I said yes, Azul said no, so I'm gonna come away with the dub on that one for sure.
Dude, I'm just gonna give up on faith in Europe, bro. They let Mew win all the time. Plenty of foreigners in cut. Like, bro, Europe, what's going on, bro? Y'all are washed. But yeah,
Dang,
another L
calling
for
it
me on the
out.
another L for me on the prediction.
Well, last thing about Dortmund, any major meta shifts you think that we'll see as a result of this? Does Chien Pao winning have a major impact? It sounds like you think there's a chance it becomes a top 6 deck.
Yeah, I mean, more people will pick it up and try it out again. I don't know. I feel like people's opinions on Chien Power are pretty solidified. Um, like like I said, I'm kind of in the middle of the road where I don't think it's like a like ridiculous. I think it's just another good deck. It's just a good deck. Like, I think people like it has like a definitely a stigma around it that might change where people are just like, oh, it's a bad deck, it's a clunky deck. It's like I don't know. Have you actually? Like, I feel like there's like that stigma around it, and it's like the people who perpetuated the stigma had maybe not the best of times with it or just don't really like the deck. And then people who just had never played the deck just kind of latched onto that without ever picking it up. But yeah, the deck's always been like a solid deck. So like I said, like it winning to me is not like a huge surprise. I think the meta shift did help it. But it's almost like people were like kind of giving up on the deck. Irrelevant of the meta, the deck is bad, is the way like people were kind of talking about Chien Pao. Like it doesn't matter how
Mhm.
the meta shifts, the decks are just a bad deck. But it's definitely not true. I think Owen proves that a little bit here for sure. Like I said, even this result isn't like even a result like this shouldn't always like completely sway your opinion. Like I said about Yella getting second with Golden Go. I don't think Golden Go is any better than I thought it was going into the tournament, even with Yella getting second. So yeah, you should always still kind of trust your opinion to an extent. But I think we'll see a couple people change their mind a little bit about Chi and Pao at the very least. But besides that, I don't think too much is going to change. To be honest, I think Zard will come down. I think Zard will continue to come down a little
You've been
bit.
saying it for weeks, man. Is it
It has been
finally gonna
coming down a little
happen?
bit. I mean, we have like I guess we don't have that much time. There's 2 weeks between now and Utrecht. I mean, but also the two decks that made the finals here are both bad matchups for Charizard, right? So if both
True.
of these decks gain even like a decent amount of popularity, they become like because what was this was the only Golden Go in day two with Yella. I don't know how popular Chimpao or Gold did they have a best of the rest graphic
I don't think
or
so.
I think they did. I think I remember seeing it on the
Oh,
stream. I don't remember what was there, but we could see Chimpao and like Golden Go getting up to like 4 or 5% decks, right?
I'll see if I
Um,
can find it real quick.
Whereas I feel like they were probably quite a bit lower than that overall. And by the way, I love that graphic. They should never stop doing that, where they show basically everything else that it was the meta share for everything else in day one. Um, yeah, I'm pretty sure they had it. I don't remember the percentages for everything, but it drops off pretty fast after the seventh deck. It's like the
It
seventh deck,
does, it
like
does.
Mew is like the one at what's it called was Mew was like 7.7% or something. And then it's like 3% after that. It's like 3 point something to the next deck. So you can definitely see the breaking point where it's like it goes from like a different tier of popularity in decks. There's like the top three, and then the next four, and then it drops off pretty drastically after that. And that's when you get to the more fringe decks of the meta.
Tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. It kinda lines up pretty nicely, huh?
Something like that, I guess.
All right. Well, that is Dortmund. Great tournament. Crazy results. And we can move on to our next topic here, which is something pretty exciting you have coming up this next, not this weekend, but next weekend. And that is your next show match. So, for anyone who doesn't know, Azul recently hosted a kind of like it feels like a UFC type event, like big figureheads in the community, facing off against each other. There was the kind of artificial beef between Bradner and Jake
Artificial beef.
Gearhart. Well, maybe not artificial, I don't know, but
Yeah, 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 yeah.
they were clashing a little bit, right? But they
Yeah, it
weren't
wasn't
like
like real
yeah,
beef. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
For
yeah.
sure. But it's just funny the way you said it for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That Azul broadcast did really good numbers. It was one of the, I think, biggest like what would you call it? Like exhibition type matches in the history of the game, probably just the biggest in the history of the game. And you're doing another show match, Azul. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so got another show match coming up. I've talked about it a couple times that I'm trying to do these things around once a month, depending on how the schedule is going to break down for tournaments and other stuff going on for content. Then maybe I won't be able to do it once a month every single time. Definitely not trying to do it more than once a month. But yeah, the next one I got coming up is a crew battle. Two of like the most prominent, I guess, like testing groups in the game for a little while now. We got not the full group on either side, but I did want to keep it a little bit smaller and condensed, especially because one of the things I plan to do with this is I want to be able to listen into either side's comms and communications. And if we're looking at 4 or 5 people, it's going to be a little bit harder to really hear what's going on. So I decided to like condense it down to a 3v3 best of 9 conquest format, and we've got the Australians and Natalie Miller, Brent Tonneson, and James Cox, who have all had a decent amount of success recently, or quite a bit of success recently, versus John Ang, Isaiah Bradner, and Reagan Retzloff, who have also all been doing pretty well recently. I guess Reagan is like the one who stands out, who hasn't gotten a top 8 this season. I don't think yet. I mean, John has a win. Bradner just got top 8 at Charlotte, but of
Yeah.
course Reagan was kind of carrying the crew last season. So I think if he has a little bit of a a little bit of a break, then that's probably fine. So I'm excited for it. It's gonna be best of 9 conquests, like I said. So they're each gonna pick 5 different decks to play, 5 different
As a
archetypes
group.
as a group. Yeah, and they'll all be kind of piloting the decks together as they try
So
and
it's
get
not like
5 wins.
Natalie versus John,
Yeah,
Brent versus Isaiah. It's like all three against all three for one game.
exactly. They're all gonna be together the whole time, talking through plays, discussing which deck to send up next. Do they want to go first or second in the following match? Stuff like that. So that's going to be all going down about a week and a half from now, February 24th, Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. So yeah, super excited to be doing that. Chip will actually be joining me on the cast as long as he's still available. Um, so yeah, it's gonna be sick. And like I said, I got more lined up, planned up. Already have ideas for what I want to do for future ones as well. So this is just kind of the next one in the process. We're gonna be trying to do them probably about monthly. That's gonna be the goal.
Yeah. Yeah, looking forward to being a part of it. Seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. I definitely really enjoy this type of match. I mean, even at tournaments, like the most interesting games to me is like just seeing top tier player against top tier player.
Yeah,
And it doesn't happen all the time. There's a lot of top tier players at any given tournament, but there's a lot of, just solid players at any given tournament. And those games are also great, not trying to downplay any of that, but like, just seeing the best minds in the game go at it and how games play out and how people navigate like rocky situations and stuff like that, find paths to get out of bad spots is all super enjoyable. So I'm really looking forward to being a part of it. $1,600 up on the line
yeah.
for the first place team to take home. Yeah,
Yep. $1,600 on the line. Put up a little bit myself, but then I got some sponsors for the match going down as well. So yeah, I'm trying to make these as big as I possibly can, like moving forward. I'm gonna try and do more or as much as I possibly can to, because I think that's like I want if I'm gonna get like I want like to incentivize these really good players to want to play. Like I'm putting on the show and doing all the streaming and stuff, but like I gotta put some incentive out there for the really good players to like want to show up and play in this thing, right? So I'm kind of working
make it
behind the
worth
scenes to
their
try and
while.
yeah, exactly. And I think I create some more hype and like, hype behind and stuff like that to have like a bigger prize pool as well. So I'm always trying that's what I'm doing behind the scenes is trying to get like as much or as big as prize pools as possible I can to, get these really good players to want to show up and try their best. And then also, add a little bit more hype to it as well. So yeah, I'm really excited for the future of this as well. I'm really excited for the future of everything with this. So um yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one and the future ones as well. And yeah, I mean that's just gonna be sick. I'm super hyped for it.
Yeah, super cool to see someone's putting out content like this in the game. So props to you for making it happen because yeah, I mean like it's great to like stream the new sets and like, play wacky decks and all that stuff like that. But like to drive more people to be interested in the competitive side of the game, this is the type of stuff that gets people there. So it's definitely super exciting.
I think this stuff like does definitely make yeah, there's like definitely like was a void to be filled. Not a void, I guess like wasn't like dying to be like it was like it was
It's
like
just something
something
that
was
wasn't happening,
it wasn't like happening, but people definitely want it once it's there and people know it exists, like, oh yeah, I definitely want this to be here and I'm definitely gonna want to watch this. So yeah, I wasn't feeling like a void that was like missing, but it was like once you realize that this could exist, you're like, oh yeah, that's really cool to have around. So
Exactly.
um, yeah, and yeah. Yeah, I actually, well, one more thing you were gonna go back to what I was gonna go back to saying when you said like, yeah, just watching like really good players, like it really is like some of like this is my most fun thing to watch is like two really good players play Pokemon, to be honest. Especially like live, like streaming these tournaments live recently, and I'm when I say really good players, I mean like having players like Bradner, like versus Tord or something like that. Like I'm talking about like the
We're
point
talking
zero
about
zero
the
one percent of
1% of the
players. Like
1%,
there's really good. There's a lot of really good players out there. A lot of players are pretty consistent with the results, but I'm talking about the top of the top. So like all six of these players, I think definitely fit that criteria. Um, but yeah, watching that level of play is always really, really entertaining for sure. And it's something I don't really get to see that much of, to be honest, because I'm competing in every single tournament. So
Yeah.
like watching these tournaments live recently with like the restreams and stuff has been really enjoyable for me to just watch other really, really good players play against each other. And also it is kind of nice to see the come up of other players, and then you kind of see the mistakes or blunders some players make. But it's almost like a good thing to like see that, because then you're like, oh, you're reassured that there is still like a really big skill gap in the game, and then it makes you appreciate when you see a player just play really, really well, right? Or we see a couple players play like a really, really good match, and both players play super, super clean. Is like it makes you appreciate a little bit more, knowing like the depth to the game and how well you have to play in the moment to actually be able to achieve that. So yeah. High level
Yep.
playing Pokemon is, very alive and well, and, I'm excited to see more of it with this show match coming up.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Looking forward to being a part of it. Thanks for asking me to come do it. Yeah, we're gonna have a good time. So be sure to tune in Saturday, February 24th, 2 p.m. Pacific time, twitch.tv/AzulGG. It'll also be up on your YouTube channel.
Yep.
And yeah, with that being said, we can move on to everyone's favorite segment of the podcast. But before we do, we have to take a moment to thank our amazing sponsor, Dragon Shield, for supporting us here at the Uncommon Energy podcast. Dragon Shield, of course, makes some of the best card gaming and tabletop gaming products and accessories on the market, including the sleeves, the binders, the deck boxes, so much more. I shouted out the cube shells last week. I also keep my cube, I've got it right here, in the Magic Carpet XL, which is definitely a nice way to like transport a lot of decks. I actually looked at the website. I think these are sold out right now, so might be something to keep your eye on for when they come back into stock. But yeah, I transport my cube in it. I've seen plenty of people, transporting just various decks in those things. It's definitely a nice way to keep everything secure and safe and move everything around.
The Chip teasing everyone with that one. He's flexing on him. He's like, "I got it. You guys can't quite get it yet, but look out for it."
Someday,
Um,
someday. I mean, they'll make them again, right? But
yeah, huge fan of Dragon Shield and their sleeves specific. I'm not gonna be using any of them anytime soon myself because I'm not going to Vancouver for, about a month, but it doesn't mean you can't. You can go get yourselves some of those Dragon Shield sleeves at dragonshield.com. And of course, you can use our code. Dude, I always it's UE pod. Get yourself 5% off.
UEPOD.
Support us at the same time, and of course, there'll be a link in the description. Apparently on YouTube, and also if you're on like the Spotify or whatever, there's a description there. You can get
Yeah.
the link
One
as well.
more plug about the Dragon Shield as well.
Go ahead.
Jesper Erickson at Charlotte, I think it was. He actually had a gift for me, and it is a pack of orange classics. So not the mats. I've been using the mats
Classics.
for a long time, but this is like throwback. I used to use classics almost exclusively. So I'm going to be rocking those for my next League Cup or League Challenge that I get to go to.
Yeah, I did too, dude. It was actually funny. I mentioned that on street. Someone was using all of the best. I don't know why. All the best players in my area way back in the day used brown Dragon Shield classics, and someone on stream was using. And I like brought it up on my stream when I was watching Dortmund because someone was using brown Dragon Shield
That's
classics.
sick.
And I was like, gave me a throwback because yeah, I don't know why, but all the best players in my area back in the day, they would always just use brown Dragon Shield classics. I don't know, it's like a thing that I guess they had going on, but yeah, let's go ahead and let's jump into guess that flavor text. It's Chip's week to pick a Pokemon card and read the flavor text on it for me to try and guess which Pokemon belongs to the card and the flavor text. If I get it right without using any lifelines, I get 4 points. I am trailing by Chip a little bit in the points department. I think it's like what 19-11 right now. It is 19-11.
It's 19 to
Um,
11.
and for each lifeline I use to try and help me guess the card, guess the Pokemon, I'll get one less point, and the or the lifelines are what set the card is from, what stage the card is, and read an attack name. Chip, you got a good one for me this week?
I think so. We'll see what you got working. There's been many times where I've given you one that I thought was going to be a little bit of a layup and it didn't work out. And then there's been plenty of times where I've given you a really hard one and you actually got really close. So we'll
All right,
see what happens this week. You ready?
hit me with it.
All right. Blank makes its home in coral reefs and warm seas. It especially likes sleeping in the space between Corsula's branches.
Okay, so I was thinking of Corsola initially, but not as a Pokemon. It just like made me think of Corsola because you said isn't like Corsola basically coral, right?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so go ahead and give it to me one more time.
Yeah. Blank makes its home in coral reefs and warm seas. It especially likes sleeping in the space between Corsula's branches.
Ah, so basically, it sleeps on top of Corsola. So it's like a smaller Pokemon. It's probably a basic Pokemon. It's a water Pokemon. You said warm seas, right?
Warm seas, coral reefs and warm
Warm
seas.
seas. Man, I feel like there is like some kind of like buddy Pokemon that kind of goes with Corsola and hangs out with Corsola a lot, but I don't know it off the top of my head. So I think I'm just gonna have to use some lifelines here to be honest to get a little bit closer. Because nothing is like popping out to me. I can't even like think of like a there's like water Pokemon, but like ocean Pokemon. I can't really like even
Mhm.
think of like a ocean Pokemon. So let's go with what set the card is from.
It is from Crown Zenith.
Okay, so not a massive set, if I remember correctly. A lot of reprints. Crown Zenith was kind of like a shiny set. Dude, that's not really doing anything for me. I'm almost like locked in on it being a basic, so I'm not going to waste a lifeline and just get one less point. But I think I have to go with an attack name here to help me out a little bit.
Attack name Emotional Draw.
Dude, I'm blanking so hard on this. I have no clue. Emotional draw. Once again, I still think it's a basic. It's from Crown Zenith. Dude, I have no idea what this could possibly what is like an ocean Pokemon that is just like a small Pokemon that could sleep on top of a Corsola? I don't know. Does it exist? I don't know if this exists.
It
Is this a fake
must, right?
Pokemon? I mean, give me a stage then. Maybe I'm wrong about the basic and this will help me.
It is actually a basic.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. All right, give me the flavor text one more time.
One more time. Here we go. Blank makes its home in coral reefs in warm seas. It especially likes sleeping in the space between Corsula's branches.
Dude, I have no I is it let's just go with uh let's just lock in I don't know, Luminian.
Luminian. One
Luminian even
problem,
no, wait,
Azul.
hold on. Luminian's not a basic. Hold on. The V is a basic in the TCG, but
Yeah.
Luminian's not a basic. Let me go with
You have no idea what Luminian's basic is called.
emotional draw. Let's go with Frillish.
Frillish. That's an interesting choice. It is wrong, but that is an
Yeah.
interesting choice.
Right.
I'll give you one
Ooh.
more hint, Azul. Do you know what the date is that we're releasing this podcast?
Uh should be the 14th.
February 14th. What's February 14th?
Oh, Love Disc.
It is Love Disc for Valentine's Day, Azul. You got me with the Delibird on Christmas. I had to get you with the Love Disc on Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Yeah, I just could not like no ocean Pokemon were coming to like my mind at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, Love Disc is definitely an ocean Pokemon. I feel like there's definitely like a difference there between ocean Pokemon and water Pokemon, right?
I
Like
thought
there's
maybe like emotional draw might help you potentially.
eh, not quite this time.
Yeah.
Well, another 0 points for me on this one, I guess.
Tough, buddy. Well, let us know down in the comments if you were able to guess correctly. How many points do you have in guess that flavor text? So often people come up to me at regionals and stuff and say, like, I'm way better at guess that flavor text than you guys are. I'm like, yes, I know. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, we know, we know. We're just trying though. We're trying.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that being said, we've got one more topic this week, and it's a pretty big one. It is the Champions League uh Fuku Fukuawa. It's not Fukuda. Fukuda's a different place. You told me it was Fukuda, and then I looked it up on PTCG Legends. It's Fukuawa.
Are you sure?
Fukuoka. Yes.
I thought it was just Fukuda.
Fuku. No, Fukuda has a D in it, bro.
I'm pretty sure I saw it be spelled Fukuda somewhere. I'm not lying.
Yeah, Fukuoka. Fukuoka.
Are you sure Wilson didn't, like, misspell it on PTCG
Yes.
Legends? Oh, dude, I don't know where I thought I saw Fukuda, but it's not Fukuda.
Yeah. Fukuoka.
Fukuoka. Fukuoka.
Fukuoka.
Alright.
There we go.
Good to know, good
But
to
yeah,
know.
gonna be a big tournament. These things always have like 3,000 people at them, and there's always way more people that would have played in it if they could have. They always have the lottery-based system, so
I think
yeah, TCG is booming over there in Japan.
I saw Twan tweet out that it was, like, half made it or something like that.
Yeah,
Um, and, that's 32 Masters big, and that's after the lottery for a spot removed over half of the applicants. So over half. So it's like, maybe like
definitely a decent
8K.
amount of people. Yeah.
Yeah, 8K tried to register and only 3,200 made it in. So yeah, massive tournament. I'm gonna be live streaming it. The stream actually these are like the Champions Leagues, and also I feel like this is actually like we're kind of like the I don't know, outside of the I feel like people are just like starting to realize that like these things are very easily accessible to watch and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like just like last season, no one was really keeping up with or watching these tournaments too much. But now I'm like starting to restream them myself. I know other people have in the past, and other people will be doing it as well. But I feel like now people are starting to really catch on to like when these things are, and the information of like when they're happening to like know ahead of time is like
I think
getting out
that's the
there.
biggest thing. I feel like I
Yeah,
would always like the last few years when they were happening, it would be like, "Oh yeah, this is happening by the way." And I wouldn't know about it beforehand, but then it was
I'd like
like,
know about it the day of,
yeah,
like, and like,
exactly.
oh, but like now I'm planning my content around this, which is so cool to be able to do. The information is so readily available. Like I've had this on my calendar for weeks now. Um, Champions League Fukuoka. Um, so yeah, I'm excited for it. Gonna be streaming it, gonna be restreaming it. Rotation, new cards, a lot of stuff I'm interested to see happen. So yeah, I'm hype for what
Yep.
comes out of this tournament.
Yeah, and it's gonna have a big impact on, the testing that we do moving forward, right?
Yeah.
Because this is gonna be the same format that we're gonna have for EUIC before too long. They might have some, like, random promos and stuff that we don't have. I don't actually know 100%, but for the most part, it will be the same format, and, yeah, this is gonna dictate kind of the meta. It's gonna dictate most everyone's testing. People are gonna be pulling the lists that succeed at this, and, um yeah, and there's already been tons of tournaments happening over in Japan. We talked about some results from Japanese city leagues not too long ago on the podcast. And for those who don't know, city leagues are basically like their version of league cups. They're a bit bigger, I would say. I mean, probably the average attendance at one of these things is around 100 people.
Yeah, it
Um,
seems like they're a little bit bigger for sure.
and, but they take place across the country. This website here, Pokeka Book, tracks them. So, we use this to. They have a Twitter page as well. They're always tweeting deck lists from lists that do well at these events. But yeah, we thought we might just take a look at some of the decks that have been doing well. We're going to make some predictions about the Champions League. So yeah, let's look at the City League results from this past Saturday. There's a decent amount of tournaments, and they do kind of an interesting version of the meta share graph. It doesn't. It's not like every deck that was played at the tournament across the country,
Yeah.
but it's all of the top 16 decks. So this is the meta of the best placing decks. What do you
I
think
think
about this
is
metric to measure the meta?
I think it's a little bit more accurate representation of what a competitive meta is, right?
Mhm.
Or what you'd expect at a major tournament. So actually I like this. I like this top 16 meta only. And that's also maybe one of the reasons they maybe do that is because they like they do at Champions League, they maybe cut to top 16 at their cities
I
leagues. I actually
think
don't
that's
know.
the case, yeah.
Yeah, so that might be one of the reasons, but I actually like that because I think it's a better representation of what the meta will be. It'll be closer to what the meta looks like from like actually at a major tournament. When you don't have like, especially with like a new set release, there's so much new shenanigans that people are bringing to these tournaments. I'm sure we don't really need to fit every single deck into the meta share. But yeah, Charizard 27%. Like it's the top deck right now. It's been the top deck for a while in terms of popularity. Success, not quite as much, I would say. And yeah, it's still up there. And it seems to not only be one of the most popular decks, but it actually seems to be like a pretty dominant, successful force in the meta as well.
Yeah, and what's been interesting too, just kinda, like, keeping my eye on this website the last couple of weeks, it's like there's been, at the start of the format, it was basically all Charizard. with
Yep.
Pidgeot. It was basically all Pidgeot. But as the format has kind of progressed, a lot more of the successful lists have been playing Bibarel over the Pidgeot. What do you think of that, Azul? A lot more Bibarel right now.
Where the Team Devos at? That's what I'm wondering. I would assume if you're playing the Bibarel build, TM Devo would be the reason to play it, would be like to avoid the Devo hate towards the Candy build, the Pidgeot build. But then I would assume the Bibarel build would be taking advantage of Team Devo itself. But I'm looking
There's
at these
just it doesn't feel like
lists.
there's a lot of Team Devo in the format.
Pretty good card though. If Charizard's number one,
Yeah, but it's pretty good against the number one deck. But I mean, if we look at the rest of these decks,
it's pretty good against Excalibur as well, which
I
is
mean,
number
it's
two.
okay against Excalibur.
Also, it puts the Archeops from Lugia back into the
That's not how
That's
that
not
works.
how it works. No, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it still seems like it'd be like if the number one deck is 25% of the meta, if I'm playing Spiritomb for Mew, which is 8% of the meta, I can put a TM Devo for 25% of the meta into the deck, you know? Um, yeah, some interesting cards like this build specifically. It has like the I don't know, whatever it's called, the escape board, not escape board, has that
Main.
Flutter Mane. I don't know what I was thinking, why that was so hard for me to come up with. Like I knew it was Main, and then I just like didn't say it. Also, is that the Erie at the bottom there?
It is the Eerie.
Dude,
That
the
is an
Erie,
interesting one.
I mean, Getsis was played in a lot of decks. I think Erie might be played in quite a few decks, to be honest. It might
So
be
for
played in
anyone
quite
who
a few
doesn't
decks.
know, it's a new supporter card coming out. It lets you look at your opponent's hand, and then is it discard 2 item cards from that
It
hand?
might be Shuffle. I actually don't remember, to be honest, now that you're
I'll look it
mentioning
up.
it.
I'll look it up.
Um, if it's not discard, it's not very good, so I'm assuming it's discard. Yeah, look at your opponent's hand and discard 2 item cards. I think it's discard 2 item cards from it, I think is what it is, as a supporter card.
Yep.
But that's, like, pretty good. Like, that's potentially more disruptive than, like, Ionoing your opponent, right? Because if you Iono
Yeah.
your opponent, as long as they have some draw power in play, they can go find those important item cards. But if you take away, like, 2 rare candies, they're just down 2 rare candies for the rest of the game,
Yeah.
right? So, it's, like, a really good kind of, like, long game, kind of card. Like, imagine you go up against a Lost Box and take away a Mirage Gate or 2. They're just like,
Yeah.
"Well, I guess I lose," right? So really, really powerful card. Honestly, maybe that's like that. If that card becomes popular, how do you ever play a Lost Box deck? Like you just sit there against Lost Box and like, yep, keep playing your Culver build a big hand. Oh, very cool, very cool. Okay, Eerie, and then you just like take away 2 Mirage Gates or a bunch of switch cards or like whatever,
Yeah.
and then I don't know them on the next turn. Like pretty good. I don't know.
Yeah. And there's been a decent amount of control doing well. I'm scrolling through here and not finding a list. This is just the results from city leagues that happened this past Saturday, but they usually do an article like at the end of the week that recaps everything. Yeah, there has been still some control doing well. I mean, this is a list that played 3 Eerie. Not seeing the
Jeez.
hand trimmer in here, which is maybe a little surprising.
I guess like not necessary,
Yeah,
right? You
maybe
have the
not.
Chi Yu in there, so you have like an aggressive. Yeah, the hand trimmer's like good if you need to win fast, but this deck doesn't need to win fast. It will win eventually, right?
Sure.
Also, Eerie maybe is enough, right? Because Eerie is something that you do as like a win condition to lock your opponent, and then after that, as they draw into item cards, that still progresses your mill actions. So,
Yeah, in this
eh,
first place, this Snorlax list that we're looking at is one that was able to take a first place finish at at a tournament. And look what it played against in the finals.
Miramax.
A different Snorlax that also had Chi Yu. They were just going crazy in this one, huh?
Yeah.
Um,
So they got we lost Echoing Horn, which is a big part of Control's win condition, because of course you're trying to trap one of your opponent's Pokemon in the active. So you could use Erica's Invitation to attack the hand, and then Echoing Horn to attack the discard pile. So they couldn't just Ultra Ball away all the cards that they didn't want you to Erica's Invitation, because then you could just Echoing Horn out of the discard pile. But the Mantine looks or takes a basic Pokemon from your opponent's discard pile for 1 colorless energy as a basic Pokemon and puts it onto their bench. Now, it's a little bit slower than Echoing Horn, and it's also an attack you have to use for a turn.
yeah,
So it's way worse. It's like way worse than Echoing Horn. It's like not even remotely close.
yeah.
But you kind of need it. Otherwise, your opponent's just going to Ultra Ball away all the basic Pokemon that you could trap in the active with Snorlax, and you'll never actually catch anything with Erica's Invitation, and you'll just kind of like the deck will just lose every time. So you need to play something like the Mantine, even if
And
it's
there's
not
been
great.
a bit of a mix, going back to Charizard here as well. One of the, I think, more interesting things to look at is going to be which A specs are most successful, right?
Yeah.
I think Prime Catcher is definitely just overall like the best one,
Yeah.
but there's good reason to play a lot of the other ones in various different decks. I mean, and basically all of the A specs have been played. The Neo Upper Energy, is that what it's called? Neo Energy. That's kind of the
Yeah.
one that has not really been seeing success. I actually did see a Lugia list that played one of them alongside the Luxray so that you can put it on the Luxray and then attack with Luxray, like, even when you're not behind on prizes, which is
Yeah.
something you couldn't do with reversal energy, but you
It's kind of
can't
cool.
put Luxray in play unless you're behind on prizes, so I don't really know exactly how that works out.
Would be like
Uh,
if you're behind, you could put it in play, then you get
and then
ahead, but they can
later
still
on,
utilize it. Yeah.
so it's
That's
kinda
kinda cool.
interesting, but, other than that, I mean, that's kinda the only A spec we haven't seen. Most of the lists are playing the Prime Catcher. The Lugia lists, for the most part, are playing the Master Ball. They just gotta find those Archeops.
Yeah, you gotta find them.
And, then a decent amount of Charizard lists are playing the Maxim Belt. I don't know what the English
No idea.
version of this card is gonna be called, but yeah, the tool that makes your attacks do 50 more damage to Pokemon EX.
Yeah, it's just really good against Charizard, which, like, we were talking about, like, I don't know, Team Devo seems good. I mean, imagine if you hit him with a Team Devo, then they finally get out of Charizard, and then you knock it out with a Maxim Belt, right? So, that's the main reason I think we're seeing
It's really good against, like,
this tool
Chien-Pao
card.
and stuff too, so you can just, like,
Yeah, it is. It allows you, yeah, to
turn
be more
2, KO a
aggressive.
Chien-Pao.
Yeah, and actually with the way the lists are built right now, honestly, Charizard might be a go first deck now. You got the 4 Buddy Poffins now, so you're not as limited to having, like, a really good turn 1,
I
but because you don't really have to play as many stadiums as you used to, right? Because Lost what do you need Lost Vacuum for anymore? Maybe if the tool cards are popular enough, but there's
yeah.
no path. So you can play this like we see this list here, 4 Buddy Poffin, 3 Nest Ball. The lack of Artisan is interesting, but stadiums almost seem like don't seem that prevalent in the format right now, besides, like, Pokestop, I guess.
Yeah, they're really not super prevalent, and it's really not a surprise to see Charizard dominating so much because, I mean, it's currently the most played deck. Some would argue it is currently the best deck, and it really doesn't lose anything to rotation. Like, you think about the other decks right now that you could consider the best, like uh the
Gina's.
Giratina, the Gardevoirs, right? Those decks lose a lot to rotation. Like, Gardevoir gets hit so hard. There's like very little Gardevoir succeeding at these tournaments, and the decks look
Yeah.
totally different than what they looked like previously, right? Because you don't have Mirage Step, you don't have Zacian, you don't have Shining Arcana. Like,
Yeah, they're
these
tool
are
builds now.
becoming Drifloon decks now,
Yeah,
the
it's
way
back
everyone thought Gardevoir
finally.
was going to be played originally, right?
Everyone's hyping up the Drifloon with the Bravery Charm. It's terrible, but now you don't have a choice. Drifloon's like, finally, the Shiny Arcana rotated so I can have my moment. And he's ready to step up. And there's no Mirage Step as well, but when you're not attacking with Gardevoirs and your Curlers are just chilling on the bench,
Yeah,
a little bit less relevant. Like Mirage Step's a little bit less relevant. So we're seeing like, yeah, these. I'm not surprised to see these Arvin builds become the way to play the deck here for sure. And honestly, though, I mean, you got Counter Catcher, you got Iono, like, and you got the energy acceleration from Gardevoir EX. I could still see Gardevoir becoming still a top deck overall in the
sure.
format.
It
So
looks a lot different though. I mean, like,
yeah.
the decks now are playing like 8 and 9 energy cards because,
Also,
like,
you still have Mimikyu EX, right? Like that's still something you have as well, which basically replaces Zacian.
Mimikyu EX.
Yeah,
Oh,
you don't
yeah,
see it
yeah,
in any
yeah,
of
I
these
forgot about
lists,
that
but
card, yeah.
yeah. So we still have like a replacement for Zacian, to be honest,
Yeah, it doesn't look like anyone's playing that at the
and no one's playing
moment.
it.
The Fluttermane, honestly, I've seen this pop up as a tech in a lot of decks. I've seen it in some Chien-Pao lists, I've seen it in some Gardevoir lists, we saw it in a Charizard list a minute ago. Uh, if Lost Box is popular, like, that card just kinda shuts down Lost Box as just a one of, and it's
Yeah,
better than something like the Klefki because, you can attack with it, and its attack is not bad. It does 90 damage, and you put 2 damage counters on your opponent's bench Pokemon however you like. And for
yeah,
those who don't know, its ability says that when it's active, your opponent's active Pokemon cannot use its abilities. So it doesn't shut down anything on the bench, right? They can
yeah,
still, you know, sheer cold with Baxcalibur or whatever the ability is called, throw energies in play, but Lost Box literally like can't do anything. Like, there's not even escape rope to push it out of the active anymore. It rotated.
yeah, yeah. So the biggest thing is that escape rope, right? Like before, like if you want to utilize Klefki to really slow down Lost Box, you need two of them in play. That's your active Pokemon, one of your bench Pokemon. You have to find it, and then if you don't, they have escape rope, and they don't care anyways.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely a pretty big difference maker there for sure. Um, and Yeah, I mean that makes Klefki better for sure against Lost Box as well. But then like specifically against Lost Box, Flutter Main seems like the go-to. It also doesn't shut down your side of the field as well. It's just your opponent's active Pokemon, whereas Klefki shuts down all basic Pokemon in play, yours or your opponent's.
Chien-Pao has stayed pretty popular. I have to imagine it still has probably a pretty solid Charizard matchup overall, especially if they
Yeah,
don't play the Maxim Belt. Maybe if they play Maxim Belt, I could actually see it being closer to 50-50, right? Because Zard can just go turn to attack, knock out a Chien-Pao for 2 prizes, and then they jump ahead in the prize trade. Um,
you're so
but
aggressive now. The aggressive options with the Prime Catcher and Shienbao is kind of crazy to be honest. Like,
yeah, that is the thing too. And it's kind of there's been
oh, is canceling
2
clone not is canceling clone rotate?
canceling cologne is still legal. And a lot of the
Why is
lists
there
I
no
see.
canceling clone in here?
Yeah, this list should probably have it. But there's
That's
kind
in
of
there.
been 2
Palkia.
popular lists I've been seeing. People are either still playing Iron Hands, which looks like what most people are doing, or
Yeah.
people are playing a 1/1 Palkia V-Star line.
Cut it. Get that out of there. Not worth.
There's
Gotta
been a
go.
decent amount of people playing it.
Honestly, I don't know if hands is necessary, but the canceling cologne combo is way too good. What do you need Palkia for? Oh, I guess you can kind of like turn two. You can like do the turn two without needing. You can do the turn two canceling cologne prime catcher play without needing the Chien Pao, I get, or the Baxcalibur. But like the resources you commit to set up the Palkia probably could have just found you the Baxcalibur.
Yeah.
You're good to go. Now cut the Palkia, get that out of there. But yeah, Prime Catcher plus Canceling Clone seems kinda ridiculous, to be honest. Like, that's just like, it's literally 4 cards in 1 for the deck. Like, you played 4 Cross Switchers, which was felt pretty bad to have, like, those, like, cards in your deck a lot of times, and now you just go down to 1 card that just feels broken.
And then most lists are playing 1 or 2 Cryptomaniacs Deciphering.
Broken card.
Which I think seems pretty good in this deck there just because there's so many ways you can interact with it, right? You can for those who don't know, it's a supporter, it lets you search your deck and then choose 2 cards, shuffle your deck, and then put those 2 cards on top of your deck in whatever order you want. And there's just so many ways you can interact with this card, and it's such a combo-based deck, right? It works with your Radiant Greninja, it works with Bibarel, it works with Pokestop. So I think it makes sense. Irida is probably just overall still better. Like I don't think you would ever
Yeah.
play a super heavy count of the Cryptomaniac, but it makes sense as a way to just set up a combo piece on a specific turn.
Yeah, honestly, I don't even know if you wanna play Iono. You can be maybe such an aggressive deck now, you don't even play Iono anymore.
A lot of lists still do have the one Iono, but I mean these two here that I'm looking at have one boss, one Cryptomaniac, respectively.
Yeah, the Maniac definitely seems pretty good in there for sure. And we see people going down to, like, 3 Pokestops as well. Probably
I
mostly
even saw a
because
list with two Pokestop.
yeah, both probably mostly because they're not getting you don't need bumps to path because path rotated.
Yep.
And if there's just not that much other stadiums in the format, your Pokestop's just sticking in play. So then playing that too many Pokestop just becomes like a hindrance to your own consistency. That list right there, I kind of like that. Well, I don't know about the mini orb, but I guess if you're trying to be control, it kind of works. I like this list right here.
Yeah, I saw a list pretty similar to this recently that I liked. It didn't have the Kyogre. I don't know if that card's
And
necessary or
it's good
not.
in mirror match. The
It's definitely good in
Kyogres.
mirror match. It's pretty good against Roaring Moon as well, which still has
Yeah.
remained a pretty prevalent deck. Um, and if you're already playing Canceling Clone, like you can do stuff with that potentially. Who knows? Um,
Yeah, you could do some crazy. You could like go counter catcher one turn, as prime catcher next turn. You could, yeah. This dude, Chain Pow seems pretty scary to be honest. This deck seems kind of gross if it when it sets up.
yeah, definitely seems solid. Miraidon is a deck that we haven't really seen much from, which is kind of interesting because it was so popular in this format. But I mean, when you look at the fact that Flaffy rotated, like it seems like that was just big enough of a hit for this deck to really kind of falter. I mean, this is one of the first lists I've actually even seen for Miraidon, and it's a list that plays Regieleki VMAX.
Yeah, I don't know about the Lucky VMAX, but like I don't know, the EXP share technology has like been discovered, and then we also have that new baton card that allows you to chain Iron Hands. I feel like I feel like Miraidon's still probably pretty good. Zard obviously is probably tough, but I don't know. I feel like it's gonna be able to make it. It's gonna be able to make it work. Maybe you can go to like a 4 boss build. Oh, do you lose Raikou? Is Raikou rotate? I didn't see a Raikou
Raikou
in
is
that
still
though.
in format.
Oh, it's even still in that list as well. I just kind of missed it. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Miraidon will be all right to be honest.
And I think one of the more interesting things that's come out of the early meta in Japan, and we'll see what ends up developing in the Champions League this weekend, is kind of a resurgence of 2 decks that used to be extremely popular, but then recently have kind of fallen off. And this is something that I think almost always happens around rotation, right? Because the meta changes, the card pool is a little bit more limited. There's also usually new cards coming out that can work with older decks. And that's really all of those things I think are becoming the case for these two specific decks I want to talk about. And that is Lugia V Star and also Arceus V Star, Giratina V Star. Two decks that at a time were very powerful, very popular, both decks that saw a lot of success last year. But if we look at the last like 6 months, we haven't really seen much from either of them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I don't know, Arctina feels like such a weird deck because it always felt like such like a I don't know. Arctina never felt that good to me, to be honest. Overall, it always felt like the deck was just super mid and like
Yeah.
overplayed for how mid it was, to be honest. But who knows? The new cards might be a big difference. The big thing that it gets, of course, is that maximum belt. 50 more damage to EX Pokemon as a tool card. Allows you to use Giratina to one-hit KO Charizards. And we see in this build specifically, they also have that Virizion or fake
Iron
Virizion
Leaves.
Iron Leaves EX, which is a new EX Pokemon coming out that is a grass attacker or grass type Pokemon that has an attack, the Prism Edge for grass trash colors that allows you to do 180 damage. You can't attack next turn, which does one to KO Charizard. Also, its ability is pretty cool. We've seen abilities very similar to this in the past.
Yeah, its
When you put
ability
it,
is the reason it's played in this deck.
yeah, because it just works so well. When you play it from your hand onto your bench, you can switch the Pokemon into your active, and then you can move any number of energy attached to your other Pokemon to this Pokemon. So you load up some energy anywhere, and then you bring it all together on the Iron Leaves. Once you get onto your bench and you're doing 180, KOing that Charizard EX, keeping up in the prize trade theoretically. So yeah,
Yeah,
maybe if you got
so
a good Charizard matchup, maybe it is. Maybe, and hey, there's that Eerie in there again. People playing this like not. Yeah, it's like a pseudo disruption card, right?
yeah, exactly.
Turn
I
one
mean, and you
Eerie.
can yoink it out of your deck at any time with Starbirth. This list doesn't play it, it doesn't look like, but
All the other pieces. 7 grass. That's a lot of grass
I mean, you
energy.
got to attack with the
Yeah,
Iron
you
Leaves
got the.
better, you
That's
know.
true. That's true.
I mean, against Charizard, you've got a pretty clear path of like attack with an Iron Leaves, maximum belt attack with a Tina, and then V Star
Arceus KO
power. Or I guess
Rotom.
you can't V Star power. What am I
Oh,
saying? Your
no. You might
Starbirth, and
Arceus for
you're
your
not going to get
first
10
2
cards in the
prize
lost
cards.
zone.
Yeah, you might even Arceus for, like, your 2 first 2 prize cards in that matchup possibly, or KO Rotom or something, like
Yeah. It's
yeah,
actually pretty easy for Arceus to just take 2 pres in that matchup naturally, just because it's hard to KO an Arceus as a Charizard deck early
yeah.
in the game.
Yeah, honestly, that matchup does seem like it maybe is pretty decent, to be honest. That one does seem pretty decent.
And then
Hey,
the
maybe deck's broken.
Lugia.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go would you wanna say something about Arceus?
Broken deck. Lugia, though, I don't know about this one, but it's interesting for sure. We got the go ahead, tell 'em what it does.
Yeah, I think that Lugia honestly seems really good, and it's because of the new Chinchino coming out. It's and again, when we're saying these attack names, we don't know if that's what they're going to be called in English, but the Japanese translation, at least right now, says special round. It does 70 damage for each special energy attached to this Pokemon. So you get 4 energy from 2 Archeops. Your Chinchino's doing 280 damage. You attach for turn, you're doing 350. You're knocking everything out. This thing
There's a lot of energy, though.
it it is a lot of energy. It's a big commitment, and I think basically every single list I've seen does play 17 energy for that reason, I would imagine. Snorlax, still a good attacker. Lugia, hey, still has a lot of HP. The special energy in the format are only getting better. You get the new Mist energy, I think, or
Yep.
whatever it's called, that makes it so that the Pokemon it's attached to isn't affected by effects of your opponent's attacks.
No V-Guard is weird in here, but besides that
Yeah, that's a little weird in
wait, does
this list
V-Guard rotate?
specifically that we're
Yeah, I
looking
would say
at.
I always have to second guess if stuff rotates. Does V-Guard rotate?
No, Vigard is still in the format.
Well, look at what you have to do to actually, like, feel like you're comfortable to set up. There's 4 Serena in this deck.
Yeah, that's in this
Um,
list. I have not seen that in any other list.
okay.
That's a little interesting.
And also, we do lose Professor Burnett, which is probably a pretty big hit, but people are making up for it. They're playing the Jack. So now you can use Luminion for Jack. Jack gets 2 Archeops, and you have to have an Ultra Ball in your hand. You can Ultra Ball them away. Or on your first turn, you could utilize the Squawkabilly Luminion combo
Yeah.
to get Jack, and then use Squawkabilly to discard them. I don't know if that's good, but it is a thing.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Jack is interesting as well. I mean, there is like a Rezu still in the format that lets you search for 3 evolution Pokemon, but they can't have rule boxes.
Yeah, so Jack
Jack
can find
can
the
search for
Lugia.
like the Lugia V Star. So I mean, I think that's why Jack is probably worth playing in this
Also,
deck
Jack
still.
can find Chinchino as the game
Yes.
progresses, which is nice.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like a card that you can use throughout the game. But I think the thing holding Lugia back probably right now would be the consistency, to be honest. Like how
Yeah.
often are you able to get the turn 2 double Archeops? Because that's why Lugia was so powerful for so long, because doing that was pretty easy and pretty consistent. When you
Ball,
had Quick Ball and
Evolution
Ultra
Incense.
Ball and Aurora Energy, like you had so many ways to get Lugia down in the discard pile.
Yeah, honestly, how did people ever whiff turn 2 double Archeops Lugia?
They
It
didn't, bro.
You had 4 Evolution Incense. They did sometimes, though. How did you ever whiff? Like, how is it possible to have ever whiffed?
They weren't playing the Professor Burnett back then.
True, true. That's the difference
It
maker
almost
right
feels like
there.
people got it more consistently with Burnett in the deck. Your board just got a little
Nah,
sloppier
the
because
deck
you
was
had
way
to.
less consistent post-rotation, but
Well, sure, sure, sure. On paper, but it's not what the feels were.
what the feels were. Did you have you said there
Um,
was that the second deck, or did you have another deck that
that was the second deck. Yeah,
what was it?
Lugia
Yeah.
and the Arctina both kind of coming back.
Yeah. I guess the only other deck we could shout out here would maybe be that, Ancient Box, single prize Ancient Box that we see popping up quite a bit. Is it good? I got no clue, to be honest, but it's popping up. Definitely popping up.
It is popping up. Yeah, so two new cards coming out from this set. There's the Koraidon. It does 30 damage for each ancient Pokemon you have in play. And
Or Fighting in a
then
Colorless.
for a fighting in a colorless, and then the roaring moon, it's a little roaring moon, not roaring moon EX. It does 70 damage and then plus 10 more damage for each ancient card in your discard pile, not ancient Pokemon, ancient card. So that includes Earthen Vessel, Ancient Booster Energy Capsule, Professor Sada. There's the new Hiker type card that lets you look at the top six, keep two, discard four.
Apu.
um all the Pokemon in this deck, except for Radiant Greninja, are also ancient Pokemon. So
Yeah.
that thing can theoretically do a lot of damage at the end of the game.
Is it ever getting to, like, 1 hit KO numbers, though, on, like, 280s? I don't think it's ever getting to 280, right?
I think
Or is
280
it 70
isn't
plus 20 or 70
super.
plus 10?
It's 70 plus 10. 70 plus 20 would be
Ugh.
crazy,
Would it
honestly.
though? 70 plus 10's I mean, this is a two-hit deck for sure. We're not 1 hit KOing anything.
Yeah, unless you're able
We're
to
going
capitalize
second.
on weakness.
Yeah, we're going second, and we're attacking turn 1, and then from there, try and put it all together.
Yeah, so this is something that's been popping up a little bit. I think if I was to play something like this, I would probably still want to play a Roaring Moon EX, so you do have like a one hit KO option for your last two prizes, maybe at the end of the game, something like that. But
It's really weird to, like, put in play, though, ahead of time, though, I feel like, right? Like, that's why they have
yeah, I
the one
think
of
you just
Dark
wouldn't,
Patch.
right?
Yeah, that's why they have the one of Dark Patch, so they can do it in 1 turn theoretically, but yeah, I mean, maybe you get there, I don't know, to be honest. Yeah, this deck feels like it probably won't be great, um, but might be the best single prize deck we've had in a little while, to be honest.
Yeah, and people do love a good single prize deck for sure.
It's true. People are big
Here's
fans
another
of single
list with
prize.
Roaring Moon EX and 2 Dark Patch. It also does play the ancient A spec, the ancient drum, something like that. Draw a
Yeah.
card for each of your ancient Pokemon in play. Obviously, good synergy there. And speaking of the other A specs, there is also the future box deck. Something I know you're pretty excited for, Azul, but
Yeah.
it really hasn't been doing super well.
Alright.
Um,
Got the chefs in the kitchen, they're working on it.
yeah, it's definitely a deck like this, it's not gonna just, like, immediately be seeing success, right? It's a brand new archetype. There's no, like, predetermined list to go in with, right? You need the best players to kind of really cook with it,
I think the
before it
meta is a
pops
big
up.
thing, and the big thing as well is, like, we don't know where the meta's at right now,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, I got faith in the future box. It's got all the tools. We just need to see if it can come together, I guess, for sure, but alright, Chip, heading into the tournament. Let's, make some predictions, and, let's start off with the cool new cards, the A specs. Everyone's gonna be playing one, right? Actually, is there any deck that's not gonna be playing one? Just what one
No
does Control
way.
play? They
How
play the
would you
Cape?
ever not
I
Control
don't
can just play
know.
Prime Catcher, bro.
What do
No,
you
no,
want?
they play the tool, the
The
plus 100
Cape, right?
HP.
Yeah, that's gotta be the better one.
Yeah.
But which one do you think is gonna be most popular in the top 16? Which A spec is gonna be most popular in the top 16?
Yeah,
That's
so
what
in
that's what they
Japan,
cut to over there.
they do cut to top 16, not top 8. I mean, I think the easy choice, and then probably just the correct choice, has to be Prime Catcher. All the A specs seem pretty good, and I think there's a decent shot that like 4 or 5 of them are represented in the top 16, but there's just no way that any of them are played more than Prime Catcher. I just don't see that ever happening.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that. I think I'm gonna have to go with Prime Catcher as well. on that one. It's gonna be tough to beat that with the prime catcher. I think as we've seen like the I guess it was like really weird just seeing a lot of success from Charizard initially, and they were all playing the Maxim belt. And it was more so as other decks started to see more success, we started to see more prime catcher have more success. Just because the other decks don't really favor the Maxim belt.
Maxim belt would be the
Is it
one.
maximum belt or is it Maxim belt?
I don't know, man. It's something in Japanese, and we don't know what it is in English.
Well, what does
Like
like the current translation say?
maximum belt. I think
Oh, so
I'll double check.
maximum. All right.
Yeah, maximum belt.
All right, maximum belt. But yeah, I think yeah, it'll be the prime catcher for sure, I think overall.
And like we said, they do cut to a top 16. We've done this before. What we think the most played deck will be in a top 8. What do you think the most played deck will be in their top 16, the most well represented?
Well
We've talked about a
Charizard's
lot of archetypes here.
yeah, Charizard's the easy guess. I'm gonna go a little bit outside of that. I'm gonna go with let's go Chien Pao on this one. I think yeah, Chien Pao seems disgustingly good overall. And like historically, which is like not that long ago, but historically it's had a good Charizard matchup as well. So if Chien Pao becomes like a really like that much better of a deck, I mean, yeah, I'm gonna have to go with the Chien Pao on this one.
Yeah, I actually kind of like that pick. I was leaning towards picking Chien Pao, but I think that the numbers probably will just dictate Charizard remaining the top choice.
Would get attacked
Um,
against pretty heavily though.
it
Team Devos.
could.
Where are the Team Devos, bro? Just bring them out. Come on.
I'm gonna stick with Charizard as the most popular deck in top 16. I think that's a still a safe bet.
All right, sounds good. Sounds good. So got the new cards. I guess the new cards outside of base specs. We've had them for a little while, but they're kind of being like amplified with the set. Is the future an ancient?
Yeah, they're getting a lot more
Uh,
tools, a lot more toys.
yeah, a lot more toys. We just talked about both of the kind of prominent archetypes of the builds. What one do you think will be more successful? Which one's going to go further, ancient or future?
So, like, just any deck that is Roaring
Yeah,
Moon EX an ancient deck? It is, right?
nah.
I mean, it's got Sadas, bro. It's got Ancient Booster Energy Capsule.
Okay, yeah, sure.
I think I've got to go with Ancient for sure. I could see the future doing well because like you said, the cooks are in the kitchen, right? And this is the time to bust out the main course right here for the Champions League. So I could see some future box deck doing pretty well, but there's just so much good ancient stuff out there. I'm gonna go with ancient.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna go with future. I really like the future stuff going on. I'm hoping future pulls through here. So I'm gonna lock in the future here for sure.
So right now, it's a lot of old cards being played. Like the Charizard, the Chiampaus, the Lugias, the Arceus, like it's a lot of like the old stuff that we've seen. And we've talked about a lot of the new supports, like the Buddy Poffin is the big one. The A specs are big, right? But there's also several new EX cards in this set. So what do you think do we want to do most played or best finishing new EX will be in the top 16?
I'm down for most played.
All right. So most played new EX card in the top 16. What do you think, Azul?
I'm going with I don't know the name of it off the top of my head, but the plus 20 damage future Pokemon. I
Iron
get a
Crown
Iron
EX.
Crown because there's four of them in the future decks. I got four of them in each of the future decks. I'm a big future believer. I believe in the future. The future is now. And with four of those in each of the decks, if we get like two, three of those in the top 16, that should do it for this prediction.
Yeah, honestly, even if one of them made top 16, it would be
That's
hard
true.
for 4 other EXs from the new set. The only other one would possibly be Raging Bolt. We didn't really talk about Raging Bolt, but that's another big new card from the set. It hasn't really done super well.
No,
Probably similar reasons maybe to the Future Box, right? Like, it's a new archetype, people just haven't really brewed it up
Raging
fully.
Bolt.
It does seem a little bit weaker, though, than the Future Box, so
Raging Bolt is literally just the next two prize beat stick deck.
yeah, but could
So
it do it better than the current 2 prize beat
no,
stick
I don't think it does
decks?
it better. I don't think it does it better than like a Golden Go or
Yeah.
in Moon, to be honest. But something like I don't like if there's no future box I make top 16, I think it like something like the Iron Leaves
The
itself.
Iron
Then
Leaves has to be the only other possible choice just because it's played in Arctina. It could be played in Lost Tina as well. I could see it making its way
yeah,
into those Lost Tina builds.
maybe some other kind of lost zone decks as well could make its way
And it
there.
is played as well in the the future box deck. I'm gonna go with the Iron Leaves, just to spice it up a little bit, but I think that you've got a pretty good pick in the Iron Crown, to be honest.
Locking in the crown.
And then our last prediction here. We're doing 5 predictions this time. We normally just do 3, but it's an exciting big new tournament, so we wanted to
New set,
throw a lot of
rotation.
stuff out there. So, what new A spec will be in the winning deck?
Well, I'm putting a lot of faith into the future box. So I feel like I gotta go with whatever it's called. I don't know what it's called, but the future A spec. I assume all the future decks will be running it.
I don't know
Um,
what it's called
I
either.
don't know the name, but it accelerates energy from your discard pile to each of your future Pokemon in play. One basic energy to each of your future Pokemon in play from the discard pile. So whatever that card is called, that is what I'm going with here.
Why is it not in
Page
this? Oh,
two,
it's on
page
page
two.
2.
There you go. We'll figure out the name. We're figuring out the name right now.
It is the Reboot
Reboot
Pod.
pod, of
Reboot
course.
Pod.
Yeah, so I'm going with the
Um,
reboot pod.
okay, okay, I think that's a fair choice. I mean, you're putting a lot of stock in this deck.
All in on the future.
I think there's a good shot that it is just Prime Catcher. Good shot it's Maximum Belt. But the deck I am actually most hype on right now in the new set is the Lugia. I think Lugia seems insane. The consistency is the main question, but the Chinchino is just nuts. Your Snorlax is still good. You've got all these different special energies that are so strong. So I'm going with good old classic Master
Master
Ball.
Ball.
Master Ball to be the A spec in the winning deck. Let's go, Lugia.
It's really funny that it actually is being played in like a seemingly decent meta deck immediately, whereas like Master Ball, the old Master Ball A spec was never played like ever.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm down to see some Lugia do well for sure, especially if it means Master Ball is getting played. So
We'll
definitely
see what
excited
ends
for it
up
this
happening.
weekend.
I'm looking forward to it,
Yeah.
Azul, this weekend. When are you going to be? How does it work with the time difference? When are you going to be streaming this thing so people can tune in and watch
Yeah, so I'll be streaming it. The stream starts at 4:30 Pacific, 7:30 Eastern. The
on
games probably won't
Friday?
on Friday and Saturday. So Friday's day 1, Saturday's day 2, starts at the same time. The games probably won't still start until like an half an hour to an hour after the stream starts. But yeah, that's when I'll be starting my stream probably around like 4 p.m. Pacific. And then their stream will start up at that 4:30. Games will probably won't start till a little bit after that, but yeah,
Nice. Yeah, I'm going to
excited
try
for
to
it.
tune in for sure as well and see what's doing well and see who makes the better predictions. I'm really excited to see just like what decks do well, looking at the top 16 lists and stuff like that. This is like the most exciting time. Like we've always talked about how we most enjoy like the new set coming out, but this is like twofold because it's new set plus rotation. So yeah, spices it up a lot.
Yeah, definitely is gonna be a big game changer. Definitely excited for it.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for our episode this week. Thanks so much, as always, to everyone for listening. Thank you so much for the support. If you do enjoy the podcast, please be sure to leave us a rating, a like, a review, a comment, wherever you are listening, whatever, type of feedback you can give us. It helps us out a lot. It's a great way to support the show. It's a great way to help more people find it. So we, of course, always are very thankful for any of those reviews and ratings. And if you want to stay up to date with us, the best place to do it is over on Twitter. You can follow myself at Chip Ritchie. Azul is at Azul_GG. And you can follow the podcast at Uncommon_Energy.
Yeah, appreciate the support as always. Make sure you come check out the stream for I don't remember how to pronounce it, but the Champions League this weekend. I'll be streaming that Friday, Saturday, and then catch y'all next Wednesday here, 7 a.m. Eastern.
See ya. See ya.